What's up, guys? Don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment, hype up the video, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe and join the family. It all begins with a young man named Cirrus, a shy man who activated the system not long ago, when the system itself notifies him that the chosen person will awaken the deepest feelings of the heart. The protagonist initially refuses, believing the information is wrong. After all, the level of the monsters in that place is extremely high, until he comes across a battle in which a beast asks whether that is the power of a human hero and claims that he is no match for its king. And this is Princess Yu. The D-class heroine, Bella, tells him that he should escape as well, since the levels of that war are far too high, and comments that he doesn't need to worry about her, because as merely an F-class hero, there is no reason for him to try to show off as a hero. Cirrus replies that he came to ensure the city's safety at such a critical moment and asks how he could possibly just run away, while the princess remains calm. The protagonist states that he will not flee from this battle no matter what happens, and Bella notices that he is bleeding, thinking that just standing there and staring is already more than his body can endure, let alone entering combat, concluding that they should flee. The beasts call out to Your Highness and warn that there is another person present. The princess advances and orders them to eliminate him, everyone rushing forward together, and she even comments that they should use his head to make a wine goblet for her beloved king. Cirrus remains still with the sword in hand, waiting, while the princess continues advancing until she gets very close. The pressure increases, their mouths draw near, the princess opens her mouth, and the system notifies that the kiss attack has been completed. Bella, outraged, asks what he is doing, and one of the beasts also questions what Your Highness thinks she is doing. The protagonist looks to the side and then the princess attacks him, hurling him away and taking an attack stance. Cirrus wipes his face while the princess wonders what is happening to herself, why she didn't eliminate him and how she ended up kissing him, concluding that this can only be the human's fault. The protagonist declares that even if he has to sacrifice his entire body, he will not hesitate. The beasts comment that Her Highness just kissed that human a moment ago and say they recently heard that she found someone younger outside, which seems to be true, though they didn't expect it to be a human, perhaps explaining why he is so calm, until one of them arrives furious, calling them fools and asking how they dare question Her Highness's feelings for the king, stating that they themselves are monsters, and that only filthy humans engage in such infidelity. The princess thinks that the king must never find out that she kissed a human, and orders them to eliminate that man. The beasts advance and Cirrus faces them with his sword in hand. One of the beasts raises its weapon and tries to attack, but the protagonist dodges and realizes that with a single blow his sword has broken. Even so, the beasts keep approaching and attacking, while Cirrus narrowly manages to dodge and realizes that his defense hasn't increased, but his attack power has gone up by 100 points. With the broken sword, the protagonist cuts the monster's weapon in half, runs, suddenly stops, and attacks, launching the enemy away. Bella is shocked to see that he actually sent the monster flying, since that is not a power someone of F-class should possess. Cirrus remarks that he should have cut it in half but only scratched the monster's skin, then senses something coming from behind and sees that it's the princess about to attack him, when a massive impact occurs, causing destruction all around and making the monsters stop and watch. The princess manages to slam him into the ground and the beasts try to take advantage of the opening to advance. But a tail moves and it is the princess herself who strikes the monster that tries to attack the boy, sending it flying away. The other two are confused, and she orders everyone to listen carefully, stating that no one is to move and that anyone who disobeys will be finished, because she herself wants to teach that human a lesson. The beasts agree and tell her to eliminate him. The princess approaches again with her mouth open very close to his face, Yu's saliva dripping onto the protagonist's ear, and he thinks that compared to the safety of the city's residents, a simple insult means nothing. The princess reflects that she's becoming strange since she truly took the initiative to do something like this with a human, even though she is a powerful monster and should stop this immediately. But her heart does not obey her own orders. A beast says that Her Highness wants to eliminate that human and asks how she feels about it, while the partner beside him speaks presumptuously, telling them to open their dog eyes and see clearly that Her Highness is seeking a revelation about him, and that if she does not find it, they should understand and not speak recklessly. The protagonist thinks that his attributes should be enough to deal with that group of monsters, and now it is his turn to counterattack, making the beast notice the movement and warn Her Highness to be careful. The princess wraps her tail around his weapon to stop him, chokes him, and Cirrus thinks that this is still not enough. Yug throws him against the wall and the beast comment that she really wants to eliminate him. While the princess keeps him choked against the wall, she thinks that her body has become far too strange and that she needs to restrain herself, saying that small human beings dare to fight monsters and that she will strip him now. Yug breaks his armor and says to let the humans see with their own eyes the difference between their fragile bodies and the bodies of monsters, thinking that she really wants to see that human's body. The beasts say that Her Highness's actions are truly ruthless, and that it's better to learn the lesson. The protagonist continues being choked, while pieces of his armor fall and thinks that her hand is reaching out, but he manages to hold firm and does not allow her to come any closer. The princess, drooling, thinks that something is rising from the depths of her heart and that she can endure it. Cirrus grits his teeth, realizes that Yug is acting in a strange way, and thinks that the strength he currently has is completely insufficient to defeat those monsters. Bella watches and tries to believe that they are really fighting. The protagonist thinks that for the safety of the city's residents, he can only sacrifice his small self to achieve his greater self. Cirrus pulls her face closer and his attributes begin to rise repeatedly until someone arrives. And it is the king. Yug looks on embarrassed and everyone falls silent for a moment. The king observes, indignant and enraged at the same time, and the system notifies that the bonus values are doubled and increased by 1 level. Extremely furious, the king begins to emit terrifying mana around his own body, while the princess says that it's not what he thinks and that she can explain. The king then charges forward and attacks, hurling Cirrus away and even breaking his armor. Bella asks if he is okay and the protagonist sits up, replying that he can still endure it while thinking that this guy appeared instantly in front of him and that his attack power is frighteningly high. It is then revealed that he is the Demon Lord Bartley, level A, who asks if she hadn't said that this would not happen again, and whether she still remembers the words she said last time, questioning why the hell she is acting that way. The princess replies that everything that happened is his fault and asks why he arrived so late, wanting to know what he was doing a short while ago. The king widens his eyes while the beasts beside him remain motionless, not saying a single word. The princess states that everything happened because he arrived too late, almost making her repeat the same mistakes. And even so, he still had the audacity to question and threaten her, asking again what he had been doing during that time. The king admits that he was wrong and says that he saw many humans fleeing at that moment, so he went after them. The beasts comment that he is truly affectionate toward her, to the point of humbly admitting his own mistakes. The protagonist thinks that it might be possible to escape quietly while they are not paying attention, since the level difference between him and that monster is far too great. While they are distracted, Cirrus slowly starts walking with his partner and asks if she can walk on her own, commenting that it might be better to carry her. Bella replies that it is fine, that her leg is only slightly fractured, and that she can walk by herself. At the same time, the princess says again that everything happened because he arrived late, which led her to be tempted by that human, and the king asks her not to cry, saying that the fault lies with the human, that he will eliminate him now, and that she will not be sad. The princess responds that of course she will not be, because he is her king, her eternal love, and that even in annihilation they will return to nothing together. The king calls his beasts idiots for standing still and failing to stop them from escaping, while the princess continues praising him, saying she loves his appearance. One of the beasts reminds him that Her Highness had just issued an order not to allow interference. The king moves quickly, calling them a bunch of brainless idiots. The protagonist keeps walking with his partner until an explosion occurs behind them. The king appears in front of the two, asks how he dares seduce his beloved concubine, and attacks, throwing him far away once again. The princess watches, and Cirrus thinks that several of his ribs seem broken, and that he cannot defend against that attack, as the speed is so great that it is almost impossible to follow. The king quickly approaches and says he will split him in two. The protagonist realizes there is no other option and orders the system to lock quickly while the princess approaches with her claws and, as she strikes the king, tells him not to hurt him. The king is paralyzed, and then Cirrus quickly gets up and begins to run at high speed. The king asks why she did that and says that she truly cares about him. As the protagonist runs, he notices that he has just leveled up and decides to leave that for later, thinking it is better to put some more distance between them first. The princess declares that she truly wants that human body. The king grabs her and asks what she is saying, reminding her that she just said she wanted him. The princess pulls her arm free from his hand and runs after Cirrus, leaping onto him. The system notifies that vitality, concentration, attack power, perception, and agility are increasing. The king says that because he was not good enough, humans take advantage of it, that the fault lies with him, and declares that he is there to eliminate that human and bring her back to normal. The princess tells him to go to hell and not interrupt her quality time. The king is indignant upon hearing this and drops to his knees. Bella approaches from behind, asking her to release her partner, but the protagonist tells her not to come closer because it is dangerous. The princess wraps her tail around Bella, pinning her against the wall, and begins to kiss Cirrus's neck, drooling over him with her tongue out. The king approaches, saying that she's lying to herself and that everything was a lie. He cries intensely, begins to scream, and rushes toward the two of them. The princess watches and moves quickly, stepping in front of the sword and asking him to stop. The king says that he still loves her until he feels something strange. His weapon falls to the ground and a light begins to emanate from his body. The system notifies that the Demon King Bartley has been detected as undergoing total collapse, with self-destruction imminent. The princess asks what he intends to do, and the beasts say they are innocent, asking whether they should disobey orders and escape. The king remains kneeling on the ground, enveloped in light, and the system notifies a level increase to level 10, with a skill unlocked. The protagonist quickly gets up, sword in hand, and attacks the king, knocking him down, while the system notifies that the rapid body slash transforms into a phantom, appearing instantly within a 5-meter radius of the enemy to execute a decisive strike. The princess is impressed, and Cirrus thinks that if he continues improving, he should gain even more abilities. The princess asks if he did not do this last time as well, and comments that the second time he should have been calmer, questioning why everything is still collapsing. The king leaps toward her and embraces her, causing Bella to be released. The protagonist picks up his partner in his arms and runs away, while the king continues clinging to the princess. She screams for him to let her go, saying she does not want to lose her life. Cirrus then attacks the king again with his sword and pulls the princess toward himself. But even without a head, the king continues to move. All around them, everything begins to be destroyed, and the three of them end up falling together into another location. The protagonist wonders if he has just fallen to the bottom of the dungeon and notices something small on his chest, realizing that it is Princess Yug in the form of a salamander. She moves and slips inside his clothes until Bella wakes up, calling out to her partner. The system notifies that the Demon Lord has been successfully defeated and informs him that he can receive rewards, including the dungeon map, asking whether he wants to open it. Cirrus becomes thoughtful about whether or not to open it as he needs to reflect carefully. Bella notices that she's on top of him, quickly moves to the side and apologizes. The protagonist then selects yes in the system to open the map and realizes that dead ends, traps, resources, and all rooms are clearly marked. With this, he states that he can now head directly to face the boss without worrying about getting lost. And Bella, seeing him talking to himself, approaches and asks what he is talking about and whether he is seeing something. He brushes it off, saying it is nothing, and realizes that only he can see the system. Then he stands up and helps her up so they can leave. However, he begins to feel his heart pounding and starts to panic. As a result, he collapses to the ground, vomiting a purple liquid, while Bella grows worried and asks what is wrong. Suddenly, his finger begins to emit a purple glow that causes excruciating pain, making him scream. Suddenly, the protagonist's finger begins to melt. He desperately looks around and screams in pain while some particles move along his back. Bella approaches, hugs him, and notices that his back is already bleeding, realizing that she cannot let him rub against the ground any longer because his body is extremely hot, as if it had been burned by fire. The finger stops melting, but he ends up losing his little finger. Even so, the protagonist feels more relieved, and Bella continues hugging him, saying that everything is fine until the sensation passes, and he says that he is okay. Bella asks what is happening to his body, and Cirrus replies that he is poisoned, explaining that 6 months ago, monsters attacked the city, and he saw several of them fighting against a guild hero, seemingly competing over a box. That box was cut open by a monster, and he ended up being thrown into the ruins by the force of the battle. Because the box was damaged, it began to leak, and a rain of plasma fell from the sky with an extremely pungent smell that made one want to vomit. The warrior dropped the box on the ground, and a terrifying monster approached, exuding an overwhelming aura. The protagonist was trapped under a pile of rocks and did not have direct contact with the plasma rain, but even so he was poisoned simply by the smell. When he woke up, he was in the hospital, and the doctor said that he had at most 1 year left to live. It was then that a system notification appeared, informing him that the demon god's plasma could cure the poison. At that moment, Cirrus wondered what that was, and the system asked whether he wished to connect, become a player, and receive clues on how to obtain the demon god's plasma, asking if he wanted to proceed. The protagonist confirmed, and new notifications appeared, informing him that the demon god's plasma was currently in the Naya dungeon. Later, he discovered the antidote method, which was exactly there, in the underground dungeon. There is a room ahead containing some clothes and weapons. In the present, the two walk together toward another room. Meanwhile, elsewhere, people advance holding shields until they notice something strange, when suddenly they are attacked. Vice Captain Tyr, a B-class member of the Crusade Squad, orders everyone to stay where they are, warning that any reckless movement could trigger other mechanisms. He comments that even the strongest defender, Claude, had his head pierced with ease in that place and asked how they should proceed along that route. The group used as cannon fodder has already been sent as bait, and now there is no one left to fulfill that role. It was not easy to get there, and they cannot simply turn back. Captain Cyrus states that these are ancient rules and that the lowest ranked member must advance first. Then Makui, rank D, runs forward. The captain orders him to find the correct route and makes it clear that he knows well the consequences of disobeying orders, while Makui shows extreme fear. The vice says that he made an arrow capable of ricocheting back and forth and states that it should be fired first to explore the path, so that at least one mechanism can be found and the chances of survival increase. Something is cut in half. Makui looks discouraged, and the captain tells him to observe those magical creations one more time, stating that only after that will he eliminate him. The vice lowers his head, and the captain orders him to stand up and explore the path. Makui rises trembling and starts walking. When he takes the first step and does not trigger any trap, he feels immediate relief, thinking that, thank God, this time he did not step on a mechanism. He keeps walking, unsure of which side to take. The captain asks what he is scribbling and tells him to stop wasting everyone's time, ordering him to hurry up. Makui trembles in fear, completely desperate, until he takes another step forward and feels relieved when no trap is activated. The captain comments that this is the spirit and tells him to keep going. Makui walks in panic, convinced that he will lose his life until he can no longer move forward. He then returns, saying that he does not want to die and wants to go home. The captain stares at him coldly, and a trap strikes Makui directly on the chin. The warriors observe and comment that this time it was an attack coming from below, questioning whether the mechanism changes its type of attack with each activation since, on top of that, the range always appears suddenly, making it impossible to perceive its origin. Makui falls to the ground dead, and the captain orders that now the lowest level one should step forward. At that moment, a door opens. Everyone watches as it opens completely, revealing the protagonist with his partner, who asks why they ended up there. The captain thinks that the bait team members should have been eliminated and wonders whether that guy disobeyed orders and escaped to that place, questioning why they are still alive, and Cyrus hesitates to answer. One day before the departure, a voice asks him to explain the situation, and it is a man asking how he knows the color of his wife's underwear. The protagonist replies that he is training his instincts for the next battle, which allows him to perceive the color of everything around him. The man calls him a bastard and demands an immediate explanation about his relationship with his wife, threatening to kill him right there. Other men intervene, telling him to calm down because it is illegal to kill people inside the city. Cyrus states that he will never allow his integrity to be defamed like that, and says that he will prove the results of his training right then. The captain interrupts while a man beside him suggests eliminating him immediately, and another disagrees, saying they should not kill him in the city because if the body is found, everyone will be in trouble. The captain asks what they think should be done, and the man replies that the best option is to put him in the bait group, eliminating the need for direct involvement. In the present, the protagonist thinks that he only went around to change equipment and wonders how he ended up encountering a group of raiders, thinking that they seem to have gotten lost. The captain orders him to come closer. Cyrus wonders whether he wants the lower-level team members to pass through the mechanism again. The vice comments that since they arrived alive, it is enough to follow the route they took to avoid the mechanism, with no need to put the team members at risk again. The captain states that they must defeat the great boss of that C-rank dungeon, because they have already lost dozens of valuable combat team members and there is no time to retreat. He says he is doing this for the good of the team and declares that if anyone disagrees, they're free to leave. The captain asks whether his intuition was not trained and states that the time has come to contribute to the team, reminding him that he must understand the consequences of disobeying orders. The system notifies that the map is open. Bella says that they should not follow that path, as it is clear there is a problem with that route, suggesting they look for another passage and find different solutions. The protagonist replies that the captain has already given the order to go that way, and asks her not to worry, saying that he will be fine. People notice that he moved and took the first step without hesitation, asking whether that F-class guy is serious and whether it is really possible to rely only on intuition to predict mechanisms. The system notifies to advance 3 spaces and then turn left for 2 spaces. A voice indicates to advance 3 spaces. They comment that he went straight to the 3rd step and nothing happened, saying that this guy is extremely lucky. The protagonist says that he is turning left, 2 spaces. People comment that he turned and took another step forward. Cyrus keeps walking and they observe that he did not hesitate at any moment, saying that maybe it is just luck, questioning whether he really knows the correct path and how he could know, since gathering information about the first half of the dungeon cost more than a dozen intelligence agents, and an F-class hero like him would have no qualifications to access that kind of data. To them, everything must depend solely on luck. The protagonist feels some relief and thinks that he almost lost his balance, while the captain wonders why no mechanism has been activated. The system notifies to advance 5 steps, and Cirrus thinks that he is almost at the end of that section. The soldiers are surprised to see that he really keeps advancing without any problems. The protagonist continues walking until he reaches the group. The soldiers comment that he arrived unscathed and that no mechanism was triggered during the entire path, asking whether it was just luck and whether that guy really relied solely on intuition to detect traps. Cirrus replies that this is the result of his training and states that Shukin and he are innocent. The captain tries to attack him, but the protagonist dodges before the strike even lands. The captain thinks that this is impossible, that this intuition story is nonsense, that everything is just luck, and that sooner or later it will run out, deciding that he himself will indicate the path from then on. Shortly after, still in that place, Cirrus keeps walking, and the system notifies that beside them there is a cabbage mushroom, which, when consumed by monsters, increases energy and relieves pain, but if ingested by humans can cause diarrhea. The protagonist wonders whether his partner is hungry and considers picking some mushrooms for her. Cirrus grabs one of them and thinks that maybe a lick would not hurt. The captain asks what he is holding in his hand, and the protagonist replies that it is a mushroom. Immediately, the captain takes the mushroom and eats it, telling him to listen carefully that after conquering that dungeon, all resources there belong to the Hero Guild and the Crusade Squad, and that he is not qualified to steal without authorization. He then orders him to go to the front, saying that it is an order. Cirrus states that there are no traps behind the door and that it is possible to proceed directly. The captain tells him to advance and open the door, saying that he will not allow team members with high combat value to take that risk, ordering him to stop complaining and open the door quickly. The protagonist begins to open the door and the captain warns that it is about to open, ordering everyone to stay alert. At the same time, he wonders what is wrong with his own stomach. The door opens completely and everyone watches. The captain repeats that the door is open and that they must remain alert because something unexpected may appear at any moment. Feeling that this is not a good sign, the protagonist moves forward and enters the room. The captain asks what is inside and again thinks about the growing discomfort in his stomach, questioning whether the earlier mushrooms are the cause, since he cannot risk sudden movements now or he might soil himself. Cirrus says that, according to his observation, there are traps spread throughout that entire area. He then starts running and tells them to keep up, saying that everyone must run together. The captain replies that they cannot run and must walk slowly, stating that it is an order. Even so, people start running, asking what is going on, whether there is some hidden reason, and why everyone is running. Suddenly, the captain's stomach starts making noises. He begins to release gas and thinks that he cannot hold it any longer. The people behind cover their noses and say that it is poisonous, that they smelled it and that there must certainly be a mechanism there, stating that they already knew that behind that door could not be safe. The captain tells them to stop talking nonsense, saying that if they continue, everyone will be poisoned. Then he calls out to the boy, and the protagonist, out of breath, asks what happened. The captain asks whether he knows the properties of those mushrooms and whether he ran on purpose. Cirrus replies that he does not know and asks what happened to the mushroom. The captain replies that nothing happened. A warrior picks up a piece of stone, asks if he is tired, and suggests that he sit down and rest a bit. The captain kicks him and orders everyone to keep advancing, warning Cirrus that if he dares to flee again, he will be eliminated immediately. Farther ahead, there is a tile on the floor, and the protagonist warns them not to step on it and to go the other way. Hidden there are several monsters, and Cirrus thinks that this must be the final shutdown. The captain reflects that the farther they advance, the fewer mechanisms appear, since none have been activated so far, and they also have not encountered a single monster during the entire route. He wonders whether Cirrus has been in that place before and quickly discards the possibility, because if he had not been with the team, he would probably have been devoured by the D-rank monster right at the entrance, much less managed to reach that point. The protagonist comments that if they advance a little more, they should be almost at the great boss's chamber. The captain thinks that if they have truly reached the boss room, Cirrus no longer has any value in existing, and that, regardless of luck or any other factor, he has reached his end there. They continue advancing. The captain draws his sword, an absurd aura spreads around him, and he swings it, cutting a piece of stone from the ceiling that was about to fall on Cirrus. In his mind, he thinks that in an F-rank dungeon, an explorer being finished off by a mechanism is something quite common. At that moment, a tail moves, but the protagonist manages to dodge. Another attack follows immediately and sends the captain flying. A monster appears, destroying everything around it, and Cirrus asks whether that place is going to collapse. Stones begin to fall to the ground. The captain thinks it was by luck that he reacted quickly and used his sword to block, because otherwise he would certainly have lost his life. The protagonist becomes trapped, and a voice questions why there is a human there. Someone approaches, appearing to be an elf, and comments that it is disgusting. On the other side, the monster reveals itself as a puppet scorpion of B+ classification. The Vice orders everyone to prepare for battle. Bella thinks that the sword she received is quite heavy. The Vice orders the tanks to advance and block the monster's movements, preventing it from passing. Everyone raises their shields, and the Vice orders the archers to fire quickly. The arrows are launched non-stop toward the scorpion, and the Vice orders them to keep shooting. The monster lets out a deafening scream, generating enormous pressure around them as they defend themselves with shields. The Vice realizes that the monster's absolute strength repels all the arrows, leaving the scorpion completely intact. The captain approaches and questions why everyone is standing still, saying that there is only one monster and that they can defeat it easily. On the other side, the protagonist wonders whether the voice he heard earlier belonged to a monster. A light appears in the middle of the darkness, and a tail tries to strike him but hits the stones instead. The monster advances to attack him, but Cirrus dodges and immediately closes in with a clenched fist, telling it to taste a blow with 3,190 attack power. The punch hits the monster head-on, shattering it and scattering fragments across the ground. A voice comments that he really destroyed one of the scorpion puppets with just a single punch. Cirrus thinks that the antidote capable of curing the poison in his body is in the room just ahead, where the boss is located. The monster Sadiel, of A+ classification, approaches and declares that regardless of the reason, she had already intended to discard everything touched by filthy humans. Originally, she planned to use Cirrus only to twist his head off, but now she will do it personally, with her own hands. The protagonist thinks of that female creature and comments that his head is not a melon that can be easily ripped off. Sadiel replies that she will not touch his filthy body with her own hands. The elf moves her hand and summons another scorpion, thinking that she can deal with the humans outside using only one hand. She states that she will deal with him first and then eliminate all the remaining humans. The protagonist declares that he is a hero and that protecting humanity is his duty, saying that he will stay there to fight her, even if it means using all his strength, remaining in place to block her. The elf approaches, wraps her leg around his neck, slamming Cirrus to the ground and keeping her leg locked. The system notifies target locked with 16% agitation. On the other side, the monster remains motionless, and the Vice orders everyone to observe the creature's head, which turns red, indicating that the attack has begun to take effect. The protagonist remains restrained and thinks that she is extremely fast. The elf comments that the fact he managed to reach that place, considering human strength, is impressive, but only up to that point, adding that Lord Nay truly hates it when humans enter his room. Cirrus concludes that that monster is very strong and that he cannot let her leave, needing to stop her right then. He opens his mouth and moves closer to her feet. The elf shows disgust and asks if he really did something like that to her feet. On the other side, a warrior falls to the ground and the scorpion begins to approach. Bella observes and realizes that there has been no movement there for a long time, believing that her partner would not have been knocked out by just a stone, and concluding that she needs to pull him out of there. She asks for cover, saying she will pull him from the rubble. The Vice orders her to wait and not advance, but even so, Bella moves forward thinking that everything will be fine. The monster approaches and tries to attack her, but someone steps in front to block the blow, it being the Vice himself, who uses his strength to hold the attack. Bella continues advancing through the stones and thinks that he is a hero after all, and that it is just a pile of rocks, so he must be fine. Meanwhile, on the other side, the elf observes the drool-covered foot and says that it is disgusting. The protagonist is freed, and Sadiel becomes extremely irritated, asking how he dared to soil her feet and stating that he will pay the price. The system notifies that the host cannot use the instant execution skill without holding a weapon, and Cirrus comments that if he had known that would happen, he would have brought a weapon, but now he can only use his fists. The protagonist advances with a clenched fist, but the elf dodges and counterattacks, striking him squarely with her foot, thinking that his face is soft. Cirrus is sent flying, and Sadiel thinks that it is comfortable to kick like that until she feels something strange and begins to wonder what is happening to herself. She decides that she must eliminate him quickly, as it would be troublesome if the humans outside entered Lord Nye's chamber. The elf moves her hand, grabs a piece of the scorpion, and approaches him. The protagonist notices the approach, manages to dodge, and thinks that his agility is more than enough to escape her attacks. Cirrus concentrates magical energy in his hands and cuts the scorpion piece in half. The elf approaches again, locks her leg around his neck, and hurls him against the wall. Sadiel states that he was caught again and that this time she will not let him escape, saying that she will use her feet to strangle him and that he can feel the power of the grip now. The pressure around them increases until she shows embarrassment and pushes him against the ground with her foot, telling him not to touch her legs with those filthy hands. The protagonist's hand is pinned to the ground together with pieces of the scorpion's body, and Cirrus realizes that it is the scorpion's tail he just broke. The suppression exerted is extremely strong, making it impossible to avoid the attacks. The elf says she will crush his head immediately. The system notifies an increase in resistance, along with perception and magic. Sadiel finds the situation strange and wonders why she feels so good stepping on him, thinking that humans exist only to be trampled under her feet. On the other side, the scorpion begins to tremble, and the vice observes that the monster has started to lose balance, ordering everyone to remain firm as they are about to win. New notifications indicate an increase in attack power, while Sadiel continues pressing his body with her feet and thinks that the sensation is incredible. On the other side, a voice warns Bella to be careful as the scorpion's tail is heading toward her. She realizes it too late and is thrown away, leaving the vice worried, while the captain also sees her being launched. On the other side, the protagonist feels embarrassed and asks her to wait a moment, saying that she does not have permission to touch him there. The elf continues pressing his body with her feet, while on the other side, the tail moves toward the captain, who manages to block it, causing it to hit only the stones. The captain thinks that even at such a great distance, the tail can still reach, concluding that the classification of that monster surpasses that of an elite monster. On the other side, Sadiel continues pressing Cirrus's body, commenting that it is soft and that the sensation is great. The scorpion advances toward the captain, who notices the movement too late. The pincers come in for the attack and it is almost impossible to block. Meanwhile, on the other side, the elf continues enjoying the sensation. When the scorpion is about to strike, the captain closes his eyes and, upon opening them, realizes that he has already blocked, seeing a perfect opportunity. He moves his sword several times, sending the scorpion flying away. The warriors comment that it was a powerful blow and that he is truly strong, as a single attack nearly finished the monster, demonstrating an absurd standard of strength. On the other side, Sadiel continues pressing Cirrus's body with her feet, while the scorpion crashes to the ground, and the warriors say that the beasts were so badly beaten that they howled, stating that this is the captain's true strength, and that with him around, they do not need to fear how many magical beasts appear. The captain thinks that that monster does not seem so strong, and that he can defeat it easily, while on the other side, the elf continues moving her feet over the protagonist's body as the scorpion scratches the ground. The captain orders everyone to step aside and leave everything to him, stating that he will make them witness the strength of a ranked captain. On the other side, the elf wonders whether she is really doing those things with a human body and tries to calm herself. The protagonist thinks that her body is extremely resilient, especially her legs, and affirms to himself that he will never submit to her. Sadiel moves her foot close to his mouth and tells him to be quiet, saying that she does not want to hear his voice. The system notifies that vitality increased by 1,632 points, concentration by 2,051 points, and resistance by 2,167 points. On the other side, the captain realizes that the monster's attack is coming again. Meanwhile, Sadiel shows satisfaction as she runs her foot over the protagonist, and as a result, the scorpion fails to attack and ends up vomiting. The captain seizes the opening, attacks, and knocks the monster to the ground. The warriors comment that he is very strong, and the captain states that the monster is nothing more than a punching bag, having been defeated with a single blow. The system notifies an increase in the protagonist's defense, along with agility and perception. The captain declares that he is extremely strong. On the other side, Sadiel is clearly excited, until a voice asks why it is so noisy outside. The elf recognizes that it is Naya, quickly gets up and throws Cirrus away. Sadiel wonders whether that is over, since for a moment she truly forgot Naya's order, concluding that she must quickly eliminate those filthy humans and redeem herself for the mistakes she made. The protagonist stands up even stronger, enveloped in an absurd aura, and asks whether she still wants to keep playing with him. The elf feels that something is wrong, as that sensation is completely different, the oppressive pressure reminding her of Naya, and she wonders whether she should face someone like him. Cirrus displays overwhelming strength, and Sadiel retreats, fleeing into the darkness. The protagonist considers whether he should pursue her, but remembers that his goal is to obtain the demon god's plasma in the boss room, and decides not to expend more physical strength, since that fight already consumed much of his energy. On the other side, the warriors praise the captain, saying that he is invincible, and that with him present, there is no dungeon that cannot be conquered, until the stone barrier begins to crack. Bella runs to the protagonist, asks if he is okay, and comments that he does not appear to be injured. Cirrus replies that he is completely fine. Bella observes that he is covered in dust and says that even if it does not show externally, there may be internal injuries, suggesting that the medical team examine him and asking him to inform them if he feels unwell. Someone observes from a distance and silently clenches a fist, Meanwhile, the captain celebrates and orders everyone to follow him, saying that he wants them to witness his true strength as he intends to defeat the boss alone. He thinks that the danger of that dungeon is certainly not rank C, probably something closer to rank D, and that upon returning to the guild and reporting his feats, this will result in promotion and great rewards. On the other side, Sadiel is kneeling, saying that there is an extremely powerful human outside and that it is necessary to be careful when facing him. Nai calls her and asks what order he gave her. Sadiel answers that it was to guard the door and not allow any creature to enter his room. Nai asks what she is doing there, and when the elf tries to answer, she is violently struck in the chest, causing a massive explosion. The dungeon boss says that he does not want to hear ridiculous excuses. Sadiel falls to the ground and Nay throws her onto a pile of trash along with others already finished, stating that she has just become firewood. Sadiel thinks that she does not want to be finished there. Naya comments that after waiting so long with thousands of humans and monsters used as firewood, the demon god's plasma has finally begun to form. At that moment, an explosion occurs and someone enters the room. Naya asks who is bold enough to step into his chamber, and the captain replies that it is him, saying that he came to defeat him. The system notifies that the demon god's plasma can eliminate toxins from the body after being ingested, and the boss asks whether he is the powerful human mentioned by Sadiel. The protagonist wonders whether that is the object capable of detoxifying him. The captain orders everyone to pay attention, stating that no one should act without his command as he intends to defeat the rank C dungeon boss alone. The warriors encourage him, telling him to show the monster the true power of humans. Cirrus observes and concludes that the object on the platform is indeed the demon god's plasma. A magic circle is invoked, and the captain advances with his sword, delivering the first blow. The boss remains unharmed, releases immense power, shatters the captain's armor, and hurls him away with just one attack. The warriors panic and ask if he is okay when the captain slams his back against the wall. The dungeon boss states that he only managed to withstand it because he is a relatively powerful human, and says that Sadiel is completely useless. Fallen, the captain thinks that the power of that blow makes no sense at all, since his armor was destroyed with a single attack. The warriors approach worried, and the captain begins to wonder what is happening in that underground city. Why there is such an absurd difference in strength among the monsters, reaching the conclusion that fighting head-on is not a good idea, then deciding to use the team members to exhaust the boss, minimally increasing the chances of victory. He orders everyone to follow his commands in advance, showing their specialties. The Vice tries to warn that a full charge attack without formation will cause unnecessary casualties, and suggests keeping the tanks in front, but the captain, irritated, asks whether he's challenging his authority. The Vice replies that he would never dare, and the captain orders him to stop talking nonsense as the order has already been given. Everyone must take their weapons and advance without fear as he himself will be the solid support of the team. Then everyone advances. Naya mocks them, saying that a bunch of cursed humans are coming who do not even know whether they will live or die, stating that their flesh and plasma do not even qualify as altar firewood and that humans and monsters cannot be compared. The warriors advance, and the dungeon boss releases a massive attack, striking everyone at once. The protagonist grabs his partner in the Vice, pulling them out of range while the others are burned. The attack ceases, the surroundings are completely destroyed, the captain's weapon is melted, and the boss remains floating, asking whether he did not promise to make him feel true terror. The captain realizes that he cannot win and decides to escape, ordering an immediate retreat and shouting for all survivors to leave that place. The Vice, with tears in his eyes, calls him an arrogant idiot. Suddenly, someone grabs the captain's hand. It is the protagonist who reminds him that he just said he would be the solid support of the team and that the battle is not over yet, so he cannot leave now. The captain responds that he is the leader and that his word is law, saying that if the protagonist wants to stay and die there, that is his problem, but not to drag him along. The dungeon boss asks whether, after invading his door and destroying his room, he still thinks he can escape. The captain warns him to look behind, as the boss is about to release the light beam again. He tries to free his hand from the protagonist but cannot, wondering why that bastard has such a strong grip and realizing that the attack is already being aimed at them. The captain orders him to let go, thinking that he cannot defeat either the boss or that man. He tries to punch him, but the protagonist blocks and tightens his grip even more. The captain screams in pain and Cirrus states that as a captain, he must keep his word. An explosion occurs, and the protagonist hurls him toward the dungeon boss, telling him to be the solid support of his companions, block the attacks with his own body, and protect the allies during the retreat. The attack hits the captain head-on, sending him flying while the surviving warriors run to escape. Cirrus, enveloped in a terrifying aura, declares that now it is his turn. Bella says that she wants to stay, and the Vice states that he also does not intend to retreat. Bella explains that she will stay because of her partner, and the Vice replies that he understands, stating that he is a Class B hero, level 1, who came to eliminate monsters, will never flee, and will no longer accept orders from that idiot. Naya comments that even after witnessing such power, he still did not flee, asking whether he is being looked down upon. The protagonist advances to attack, but the dungeon boss blocks. Even so, Cirrus moves rapidly to continue the offensive, making Naya realize that he is extremely fast. The protagonist starts running and says that the demon god's plasma, his antidote, is right there. Naya asks why he is running toward the altar, and whether his goal is not to defeat him, but to obtain the plasma. Cirrus continues advancing and replies that he is still a bit far from achieving it. The boss calls him a filthy human and orders him to stay away from the altar while the Vice and Bella advance from behind, and the Vice comments that this is a rare opportunity. Naya moves his hand, blocks both blows, and comments that that bastard is fast like a cockroach. Bella shouts for him not to dare attack Cirrus. They try to advance again, but the dungeon boss moves and launches long-range attacks. While running, the protagonist dodges. Explosions erupt all around, yet Cirrus keeps escaping and is already close to reaching the plasma. A magic circle surrounds the altar, and the protagonist asks if that is a magic array. When he touches it, an extremely loud noise echoes, and Cirrus is thrown backward. Naya states that that magic formation was personally created by him, and that as long as he is alive, no creature can cross it. The protagonist concludes that advancing directly and drinking the demon god's plasma to detoxify is not feasible, and that defeating the boss first is necessary, wondering if there is another alternative. The dungeon boss orders those two idiots to disappear and slams them to the ground. Cirrus looks to the side and wonders if that is the monster woman who just escaped. The elf asks him not to make noise and not to let Nai know she is there. The dungeon boss declares that his ritual requires people, and that after eliminating some of those stinking insects, he intends to visit the city again to vent his rage. Cirrus observes his surroundings and realizes that his partner is in danger. He takes something out and hands a mushroom to Sadiel, explaining that they are cabbage mushrooms used to recover energy. Then he runs toward his partner to save her. Sadiel eats the mushroom, and the system notifies that the female monster Sadiel has developed affection for the host, that the requirements to unlock weapons have been completed, and that new options have been unlocked, beginning a detailed explanation of weapon introduction rules. The Vice orders Bella to retreat and escape immediately. Bella replies that her leg, whose bone has broken again, cannot endure it and says he can flee without her. The protagonist orders the system to simply skip that, as he is going to rescue people now and has no time to listen to nonsense. But the system continues notifying that the explanation was ignored and that he may choose a card. Cirrus then chooses one of the cards and advances wielding his explosive weapon, the Divine Sword of Vestments. He moves at high speed, leaps with the weapon in hand, and attacks the monster, but Naya blocks. Even so, Cirrus persists and tries to strike him again. The dungeon boss dodges, and the protagonist realizes that the previous attack hit his palm once and tore the upper clothing, concluding that repeating this once more will be enough to bring him down by attacking the legs. Then, ripping off the mask and activating the ultimate move. All he needs to do is get close and keep using the rapid body cut skill, as the enemy will certainly be hit. The system notifies that the host's current magic power allows rapid body cut to be used 6 times with a cooldown of 10 seconds, and that immediate activation is possible when targeting the same enemy again. Cirrus comments that the skill is terrible and inefficient, and the system asks if he wishes to deactivate it. The protagonist answers no. Since that is the case, he will try. New rapid body cut notifications appear and the pressure around intensifies more and more. Cirrus tries to strike again, but Naya dodges. The protagonist grows even more irritated and realizes he missed again. The dungeon boss wonders why that bastard keeps aiming at his legs, notices that the upper garments are already torn, and suspects that he is trying to strip his clothes. Cirrus tries again. Naya calls him a filthy human and kicks him, knocking him away. The protagonist braces himself on the weapon, manages to stay standing, and comments that it hurts a lot, that his nasal bone almost broke, but that it is nothing compared to the pain of having his body slowly melt after toxin explosions, making that pain insignificant. The monster moves his hand and releases a long-range attack, causing an explosion behind him. Cirrus realizes that the 10-second cooldown has ended. Naya comments that that bastard really dodged, and the protagonist advances again, saying that the cooldown is over and that he wants to see how he will dodge an attack at such close range. Cirrus attacks and feels that he hit, but when he looks, the monster is still there. Naya replies that he never said he would run away, and that if it were not for the concern of exposing his body, he could make larger movements, stating that by speed difference alone, he He could have reduced that human to ashes long ago. The dungeon boss tries to hit him, but the protagonist dodges. Naya continues attacking relentlessly while Cirrus retreats, continuously evading and maintaining distance. The system notifies that rapid body cut cannot be activated, and the protagonist wonders why 10 seconds feels like an eternity. He concludes that there is no choice but to face it head-on. Attacks are unleashed, Cirrus moves swiftly, and massive impacts occur around them. The Vice and Bella remain fallen on the ground. The Vice realizes that Cirrus actually blocked the boss's attack head-on and remembers that before the expedition his overall combat level had been evaluated as only rank F. Yet, in a battle of this caliber, even a rank B fighter would be completely unable to intervene. As the fight continues, the smoke begins to dissipate, and the protagonist thinks that the attributes of that sword are absolutely incredible, commenting that now he can counterattack and avoid strikes easily, as the enemy's blows have become useless against him. Naya admits that he is right and states that it is indeed difficult to eliminate him, but adds that he can easily kill the woman with the injured foot. Cirrus uses rapid body cut, slices through the attack with the sword, and advances toward the enemy. At the same time, the protagonist glances sideways and calls out to his partner, while the dungeon boss thinks that stupid humans always do this sort of thing to save heroes. And that is why heroes end up being finished off by villains from behind, realizing that he was deceived once again. Cirrus thinks that it is too late to run over there and that there is only one option left. Using the system on his partner, the system then notifies rapid body cut. Bella's armor shatters, and the protagonist realizes that the impact completely pulverized her protection. He steps in front and comments that the right moment has finally arrived. Cirrus dodges another attack, and Naya grumbles that he managed to escape yet again. The dungeon boss observes the surroundings and comments that he was so focused on the battle that he forgot to add fuel to keep the demon god's plasma heated, stating that if the altar temperature is not maintained immediately, all effort so far will be wasted, and it will be necessary to wait another 100 years. Bella feels her body become strange and hot, starts touching her partner, and the protagonist becomes completely confused. She extends her hand, touches his face, and tries to kiss him, asking what he is staring at, saying that he has never seen a beautiful woman in his life, questioning why he is staring and whether he wants to kiss such a beautiful woman. Cirrus immediately pulls away and says that he does not want to. Bella, extremely embarrassed, wonders if she just took the initiative to kiss him, thinking that her body moved on its own, that she even stuck out her tongue, and that she did it in the middle of the battle. The Vice observes that her face is very red, that she is still sweating, and asks if she was poisoned and is hallucinating because otherwise she would not have acted that way. Bella becomes even more embarrassed. Naya states that once the demon god's plasma cools down, another 100 years will be required for it to boil again, and says that he does not want to wait all that time again, declaring that this time he needs to burn the demon god's plasma completely until it dries up. The protagonist feels irritated that the enemy wants to completely burn the demon god's plasma until it dries up and thinks he needs to stop him quickly. The boss is tremendously fast and he can barely land any attacks, so there is only one way. Let his power increase to a point where the boss can no longer dodge his strikes. Naya says that adding all that firewood should be enough to raise the altar's temperature to the maximum. Cirrus approaches his partner and says he has figured out a way to defeat the boss now, but that he needs her cooperation for a while. The protagonist begins to explain what the two of them need to do, and Bella becomes embarrassed. The Vice, equally awkward, says that in that case, he himself could increase his strength and defeat the boss, wondering how that guy can say such vulgar words while keeping such a serious expression on his face. Cirrus says he knows it must be difficult for her, but still begs her anyway. The Vice grabs his arm and says this all sounds like a huge lie, that he clearly wants to take advantage of her, that they are in the middle of a battle and yet he is thinking about vulgar things, telling her not to trust him. Bella replies that she trusts his words, and the Vice stares at her in indignation. Bella says that this is also embarrassing for her, but that he should not misunderstand her, because she only agreed to this in order to defeat the boss. Bella touches his face, wanting to kiss him, and says that after kissing him, she is willing to take responsibility for him, and the protagonist, in despair, says that he does not want to play this shitty game anymore. Tyre shouts no, saying not to do something so indecent in front of him, and the Vice takes a critical hit. Cirrus pushes her away and says that by a hair's breadth he almost managed it, and Bella wonders why he pushed her. The system notifies that all stats have increased by 5,000 points, and the protagonist thinks this is certainly related to Tyr, that he needs to touch her body, remembering that he has terrible memory. He says that since this is so difficult for her, they should not do it, and that he will defeat the boss himself now. Bella asks if he still cannot defeat the boss and if she really does not need to help him after all. Cirrus replies that there is no need. Bella, kneeling on the ground, wonders why he shows no interest in her at all. The Vice says he understands, that Cirrus is stronger than even himself, and that is why she has feelings for him, but he still wants to ask something. Bella asks if it is that thing again. The protagonist advances with his sword and thinks that to activate the final strike, he needs to hit the head and the legs at the same time. Before, he had almost hit the boss's leg, but now all his attributes have increased by many points. And this is the perfect opportunity because he can clearly do it. Meanwhile, Nea continues fiddling with the plasma, and the temperature is still not the way he wants it, and if he cannot adjust it soon, it will drop rapidly. So he intends to use these filthy humans to make up for the lack of heat, and they should be proud of that. The dungeon boss says that humans will become the firewood of his sacrifice, that this is the greatest praise he can offer them all, and thinks that the time has come to release all his power and eliminate these humans quickly. Nea releases an impressive power, and the protagonist realizes that he is approaching. Cirrus tries to block with his sword using a lot of strength, and the system notifies that magic points are being consumed rapidly, with the value dropping non-stop. An extremely strong light is emitted, and the system informs that the magic value has reached 11, warning that the host can no longer use any skills due to the critical magic level. Nea approaches and says that his magic power has been completely exhausted and that the battle is over. The protagonist replies that it is not. Bella approaches and says that he clearly needs her help. Tyre is detected with a broken heart, and Bella thinks that she said this a long time ago, that there has been something in her heart since childhood until now, and that it has never changed. Bella hugs him and a light begins to spread, while Cirrus says he feels a surge of power growing. The system notifies that all attributes have increased by 27,500 points. The pressure around them becomes overwhelming, and Nea says this is impossible, that he should have no reason to fight back now. The protagonist is enveloped by an absurd aura, and the dungeon boss states that no matter how much his power increases, he is still just a human, that before a monster he is nothing more than an ant, and that regardless of the attack, he can always dodge it. Cirrus moves at high speed and strikes the monster before it can even perceive the movement. The system notifies that the Divine Sword of the Explosive Vest and the Supreme Move, Sacred Sword Descent, have been unlocked. Nea begins to scream desperately as a violent power gathers inside the monster, consumed by intense fury. The protagonist moves his sword, and the dungeon boss says he will eliminate all of them. An extremely loud noise is emitted, an explosion occurs, everything around is destroyed, and the entire place begins to tremble, accompanied by intense sounds and violent winds. The smoke dissipates and the monster falls to the ground. The system notifies that the cooldown time of Sacred Sword Descent is 20 seconds. The protagonist walks toward the altar. The magic array remains active, and Cirrus asks why it is still active. Nea begins to stand up and asks if he thinks he has already won, saying that he will never allow filthy humans to touch the demon god. The system notifies that Sacred Sword Descent is still on cooldown, and the protagonist says he will take care of him in 9 seconds. Cirrus hears a noise, looks to the side, and sees his companions fallen on the ground with Bella at death's door. Nea says that he will not let him get what he wants while he is still breathing, and that they will see who comes out victorious, humans or monsters. The protagonist stares at him, moves quickly to grab his partner and his companion, runs swiftly outside and orders the system to open the map and find the shortest path to the exit. The monster thinks they really ran away, and that humanity is indeed foolish. Cirrus says he needs to reach the guild hospital as quickly as possible until a monster appears right ahead, blocking the path. The protagonist stares at it with bloodshot eyes, and Bella, still conscious, remembers when she suffered bullying for being considered ugly and how they mocked her appearance. Cirrus was about to approach her, but a boy told him not to get close or he would be infected. And then the protagonist beat the boy several times. In the present, Cirrus cuts the monster in half with a single strike while still carrying both of his companions, and the system notifies that Rapid Body Cut has been activated. Before, when they were children, after the protagonist beat the boy, he approached Bella and said that the game was not over yet, that he was a boy and she was a girl, that he would play the role of father and she the role of mother, and that he would take responsibility for her. In the present time, Cirrus continues running with his companions and says that she will be fine. Meanwhile, the dungeon boss continues boiling the plasma and says that only a little more is missing, that he cannot let the temperature drop. A light begins to be emitted, and Nea says he will make his sacrifice for that. On the other side, a monster opens its enormous mouth, releasing a great amount of power, but the protagonist dodges. Cirrus runs and cuts in half the beast that tries to stop him, and the body falls to the ground. He finds the situation strange and wonders why his divine sword of the explosive vest has disappeared. The system notifies that the enemy has been defeated and that the weapon has returned to the system, informing that after 12 hours it will be returned. The protagonist continues running and thinks it does not matter because they are almost at the exit. Outside the dungeon, people are gathered and feel relieved that they managed to escape. The guild captain thinks it was a close call, that he almost lost his life in that underground dungeon, and says that even his dragon-scale armor is broken, all because of that idiot. Cirrus approaches, and the warriors comment in surprise that he is still alive. The protagonist runs while carrying his two companions. The captain, extremely irritated, asks how he dares to flee and declares that Cirrus has lost the team's qualifications. Cirrus kicks him in the face and keeps running, saying he has no time to waste. The warriors comment that the captain has passed out and that they need to take him to the guild hospital. At the hospital, Bella is taken by nurses on a stretcher so surgery can be prepared, and the protagonist thinks that he has finally arrived there. Now he will return to the dungeon as quickly as possible because he is just one step away from obtaining the demon god's plasma to cure the poison. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, something begins to rise from the plasma, a red liquid that approaches the ground. Sadiel watches from afar and wonders what Nea summoned by sacrificing himself. Amid the red curtains, there is someone, and around them, an immense pressure begins to spread. Sadiel feels a strange sensation and thinks that that arrogant presence feels like being stabbed countless times, as if needles were piercing her bones. The summoned creature says that the smell is familiar, that the sensation is familiar, stating that this place is truly its own backyard. This is the demon god, Azathoth. Sadiel says that this place is extremely dangerous and that she needs to get out of there as fast as possible. The demon god looks to the side, moves rapidly, swings his hand, and causes a huge explosion around him, destroying everything. The beasts nearby ask why the ground exploded and say they are about to fall. The beasts plummet toward where Azathoth is, and everything above breaks apart. The creatures that fell to the ground say that the fall was far too deep, until they realize something, stating that the underground dungeon has collapsed, that they can now see the sky, and asking if, to be capable of doing something like this, it was Naya. The demon god says that Nai has already been eliminated and that he now needs a servant. The beasts are shocked to hear this, and ask if they should escape, saying that monsters are a lineage that was lost over time, influenced by the pursuit of immense power, always willing to follow someone even stronger than themselves, someone capable of turning them into servants, and they all agree. The demon god observes them and says that this is ugly, and then they are destroyed in an instant, as he states that he does not want anything ugly. Then he comes across Sadiel and says that she looks fine, telling her to raise her head and open her mouth. Sadiel, with tears in her eyes, obeys, and the demon god pours the plasma into her, making Sadiel realize something until she begins to be completely healed. The demon god says that her body is feeling quite comfortable now, explaining that his plasma has the ability to repair damage, strengthen the immune system, and increase strength, and that this process can bring immense pleasure. He says that it is dark and tells her to find a clean room and wait for him. At the guild headquarters, the injured captain has his head slammed onto the table, and Darren asks what he said, hearing that the mission failed, while the captain says he is sorry and that he needs to find a solution, because if he loses his position as captain, he will have to hand over and audit the remaining assets of the guild's investigation team. And if it is discovered that they sold guild resources, the situation will be even worse. Darren tells him to shut up and says he already knows, stating that he just said that someone on the team disobeyed orders. The captain confirms, saying that the name is Cirrus. Darren states that all responsibility for the failure will be transferred to him, condemning him to execution for desertion. The protagonist returns to the dungeon and wonders how it collapsed and whether the antidote is still intact. Cirrus goes straight to the altar but realizes that the plasma is no longer there and that the place is empty. Elsewhere, Sadiel is sitting with her head down when someone approaches from behind and begins to run a hand over her body. And Sadiel tells Azathoth not to do that until the person behind her hugs her, and she feels something soft touching her back. The demon god speaks in her ear, and Sadiel feels impressed and embarrassed at the same time. He asks if she does not like hugs, and says there is nothing to be surprised about because at night he loses all his power and returns to his true self, a girl. During the night, she must protect him and eliminate anyone with hostile intentions toward him, and he tells her not to even think about trying to kill him or escape, because by consuming his plasma during the day, even at night he can resonate with the plasma inside her and make her body dissolve instantly, so she must obey him. The protagonist begins searching and realizes that another room is also empty, thinking that the demon god's plasma must still be somewhere there, that there must still be hope for himself, and decides to explore every corner of that place, telling the system to open the map. In the room, the demon god says that he truly does not want to end up like this, but that there is no way to avoid it, because his heart is sealed inside the Heroes Guild and he is not in his complete form right now. explaining that at night he turns into a weak human, but that if they wait until daytime, after restoring the demon god's power, they will go to the Heroes Guild headquarters to retrieve his heart, and when that happens, all the monsters in the world, whether day or night, will once again bow to his power. Meanwhile, Cirrus keeps running, and Sadiel hears something, saying that someone is approaching and that she will take a look. At that moment, someone calls her by name, and it is the demon god who says that during the fight she must remain within a 5-kilometer radius of him, because if she exceeds that range, he will assume she is escaping and will melt her body. The system notifies about the demon god's plasma present in Nai's underground dungeon, and the protagonist keeps running, thinking that indeed it is there. Only that room ahead remains to be searched, and it must be inside. Sadiel is hidden and tries to strike him, until she realizes something and says that it is him, the disgusting human again. The demon god shouts, asking what is happening, thinking that at that moment his body reacted, and that this reaction only occurs when he is near his own heart. Sadiel says that Naya has already been eliminated, asks why he came back, and tells him to leave immediately before dawn. The protagonist says that her body has recovered enough strength to fight, and asks if she liked the mushroom-flavored candy he gave her. Sadiel replies that it was not tasty at all, that it was the most disgusting mushroom she has ever eaten in her life, and tells him to go away. Cirrus says that she is crying and that her favorability toward him is higher than he expected. Sadiel tries to hit him and says that he is talking nonsense, that she does not like him at all, until she lands a solid hit on his face. Sadiel states that his feelings toward humans are simply disgusting. Then she realizes that he disappeared and thinks that she clearly stomped on his face, yet he still managed to escape. The protagonist runs toward the door and says that he has urgent matters to deal with, that they can play later, and thinks that he can feel the demon god's plasma right behind that door. The demon god opens the door, Cirrus is surprised, touches her, and asks if she is human. Sadiel asks why she came out. Suddenly, the pressure around them intensifies. The demon god touches him, and a light is emitted inside his body. The demon god realizes that this is his heart and wonders why it is located in that part of the human body. The protagonist steps back and asks what she intends to do. Cirrus touches her and realizes that the plasma is inside her, asking how his antidote turned into a human. The protagonist cuts her hand and begins drinking the plasma, questioning whether that plasma is the antidote. The demon god feels pain, and the system notifies that the host's poison has not been cured, informing that the remaining lifespan is 101 days, and Cirrus asks how her plasma can be ineffective. The demon god thinks that he has already transformed into a human, and that his plasma has naturally become ineffective. Sadiel moves her leg and tells him to let go of her hand, striking the protagonist and pushing him away. The demon god thinks that his heart was absorbed by a human, transformed into essence, and stored in that filthy part of the body, and that now, to recover his power, he will have to forcibly absorb it back into his own body. After that, his body will dissolve into a pool of plasma, this being the punishment for using his power without permission. The protagonist asks if it could not be other bodily fluids and says to leave that for later, that they will extract it first and decide afterward. At that moment, stones shoot upward as the ground is shattered, and the spider lady appears, saying that even from thousands of kilometers away she felt her presence. The sensation that confuses her senses is stirring inside her, and the bell she granted her has not been removed for even an instant. This is the boss, Ghana. She says that she has already proven her love for her, and asks if she can devour her now, stating that after that she will belong only to her. The demon god remains still. Cirrus leaps, grabs her in his arms, and carries her away, wondering how a boss monster appeared there so suddenly, and thinking that he needs to take her to a safe place first. The protagonist runs with her in his arms. Ghana shouts for him to give her back and not to run away. Near the buildings, Cirrus feels relieved and says that he finally managed to get rid of that monster. The demon god asks where he took her, and Cirrus replies that it is the Heroes Guild in Zone Z, his home. The demon god thinks that this actually makes things easier because after recovering his power, he can carry out a direct purge, and everyone will pay the price for sealing his heart. Azathoth hugs him and says that she was cursed by a terrible monster and that if she does not find a man to mate with soon, she will lose her life, stating that he can save her. The protagonist gets a nosebleed and says that he is a noble and upright hero who would never exploit someone's vulnerability. The demon god calls him a brave hero and says that she is in great pain now, stating that he needs to save her. Cirrus thinks that he cannot believe he truly encountered something so shameful, and his inner voice says that he must never exploit the vulnerabilities of others in such a way, because otherwise his righteous soul would suffer unbearable anguish. However, as dictated by a hero's responsibility, the people who need his help are suffering, and he cannot simply cross his arms and do nothing, willing to sacrifice himself to save her, leaving her to endure that pain from the depths of her heart alone. Azathoth thinks that once she extracts the essence and recovers her power, she will eliminate every one of them. The protagonist notices something and asks if that is a tail and how she can have a tail, saying that as far as he knows, that should be in the front. Cirrus is shocked when she realizes what it really is, starts screaming and says that he himself is a bastard. The protagonist pushes her, and something falls from her pocket. Frightened, Cirrus asks why she has a sword between her legs. The demon god approaches him again and says that he is a brave hero who has just agreed to save her. Azathoth runs her hand over his body and thinks that dawn is approaching, that her body is beginning to change, and says that he cannot take back his own words. Until the demon god notices something and asks what that is. Hair moves, and Yug is summoned, saying that she is hungry and wants his help. The protagonist says that he thinks she needs his help now, that he will help her first and then it will be the other one's turn. Yug thinks that that nest is so small that she cannot even stretch out. Cirrus says that she will prepare something for her to eat right away. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, the flames are lit. The protagonist thinks that he will try to buy some time by cooking and wonders what he should do now. He thinks that if he does not save her, the demon god will truly lose her life, that there is no way to detoxify, and wonders if he really needs to have a relationship with her. Cirrus thinks that she cannot do this. Azathoth thinks that she does not want to wait until morning and that she needs to recover her energy now. If he does not want to, she will have to force him. The protagonist pushes her away and goes to another room, saying that he has finished preparing the food and that he will help her first. The demon god becomes irritated, thinking that this is hateful, that human body is too weak and has no power to suppress her. The door is closed and Yug is drinking something. Cirrus says that it is a toilet bowl cleaner and asks if she will be fine after drinking that. Yug starts eating the prepared food. The demon god says that he has already prepared food for her and saved her, and that now it is his turn. But the protagonist asks her to calm down. Azathoth grabs his arm and says that she does not want to hear excuses, that she wants to do it now. The system notifies that the deadline to return the weapons has arrived. The demon god removes his clothes and keeps observing. More notifications appear to complete the mission, to run through the streets and wave at 33 people, and the protagonist, irritated, says that he would never do such a thing. The system notifies that if he fails to complete the mission, he will be dragged into the advanced reverse paradise. Cirrus grows thoughtful and imagines herself in a place like that, screaming that it seems even more terrifying, and asks how such a small piece of cloth can offer any coverage, saying that it simply covers nothing and that no matter what happens, everything will be exposed. The protagonist tells Yug to take care of her and says that he will go out for a moment. Yug asks if that is how humans normally go out and asks if the demon god wants to drink, saying that it tastes very good. He replies that no, he will pass. Cirrus, naked, ties a cloth over his face and thinks that this is the only option now and that he cannot let anyone see his face. He goes to the barbecue square where there are many people so he can finish the mission quickly. Meanwhile, Ghana is still looking for him, saying that that damned human runs very fast, but that she has already sensed his presence in that area. In the middle of the street, the protagonist tells everyone to look at him and wave. People comment that there is a pervert in the street, that guy must be sick. The system notifies that the weapon evolution mission has 12 33rds completed. People start chasing him, wanting to beat him and calling him a pervert. Someone puts a foot on the window and Yug notices that there is someone there. It is Sadiel, saying that she has finally found her, that this is the city of the Heroes Guild, and that if they are caught, it could be very dangerous at dawn, so they need to hurry and leave that place. The demon god says that it is almost morning and that there is no need to hide anymore, that she should go find that human now, and that when the sun rises, she will let her plasma fall to the ground and she herself will find the way to him. Sadiel goes to search and wonders, after recovering the essence, what will happen to the human, thinking that they will be turned into plasma, until Sadiel notices the protagonist running, with people running after him. The men chase after him and say that that guy is still greeting people on the side, claiming that he is extremely perverted. Cirrus keeps running and realizes that he has already greeted more than half of them, until a monster attacks the people who were chasing him. When the protagonist looks back, he realizes that it is a monster, and thinks that at that critical moment, monsters have suddenly appeared. He questions completing the mission, and the system opens, notifying that during the weapon return mission, he cannot use the system, that everything has been reset and that he must complete the task as quickly as possible. It is announced in the city that monsters have been sighted and that everyone must evacuate immediately. A young man jumps onto the spider and says that he has grabbed her leg, stating that now he needs a weapon to bring her down. Cirrus greets him and says that he did very well. The young man asks if he is naked, questions who the hell greets someone during a battle, and asks if the monster happened to tear off his pants. The spider releases a liquid, and the young man says that he managed to free himself. Then a warrior approaches and cuts the spider in half, causing plasmas to be scattered. This is the leader of the security team, Kajak, ranked A, who asks if it is really that difficult for them, C-ranked heroes, to deal with small spiders like that. The vice president praises the work, saying that this also counts as performance on the battlefield, and orders them to escort everyone back quickly. Ghana says that she can smell it and that the human is nearby. People look back and draw their swords to fight until an extremely bright light is emitted. Kajak advances but misses the attack, and Ghana smiles, asking if that is how he intends to approach her. Then, the leader widens his eyes when he realizes that he has been hit and says that it is poisonous, warning that they cannot touch her. Ghana comments that humans are really fragile, that they cannot even withstand a little poison. One of them says that he will hold the monster back and orders them to take Charlton to a safe place. Ghana asks if he wants to hug her and states that they underestimated her. Meanwhile, the protagonist keeps running, with only one person left to complete the mission. Kajak is infected by the poison, and Ghana says that the sounds they make when they are poisoned are truly pleasurable, stating that he will not scream anymore, but that she is not hurt enough yet. The vice president calls for help, and Cirrus tells them to release that man. The system notifies that the weapon return mission has been completed, and the protagonist's clothes return as soon as he greets the last person. The system notifies him to choose a card. Cirrus makes the choice, and new notifications appear informing that the acquired weapon, Silent Divine Finger, allows that whenever the host touches something around them, it will be replaced by the body of the locked enemy, who will feel the sensation of the touch, and that when the enemy screams from the depths of their heart, it will activate the silent force. Ghana realizes that it is that human and asks where he hid Azathoth, and the protagonist replies that he will not hand her over. Ghana says that then she will eliminate him and will search for her personally when dawn comes. The spider lady tries to attack him. Cirrus plants himself on the ground so as not to be pushed back, and Ghana wonders why she feels as if someone is touching her body. The spider lady starts screaming until she collapses to the ground, causing a violent impact. Ghana gets up and wonders if that human touched her chest at that moment, thinking that as soon as she screamed, an invisible force struck her, and that, although it was not fatal, it still hurts, concluding that this must be his ability. Ghana thinks that her body and mind belong only to Lady Azathoth, and that anyone else who touches her body beside Lord Azathoth must lose their life, stating that she would never do something like betraying the gift again. The system notifies that the value of the scream is directly proportional to the power of the silent force. The spider lady says to expel all toxins from the body, gather them in the hands, and lose life in pain and lamentation, for that is the price for touching her. Ghana tries to attack him anyway, but the protagonist manages to dodge until the spider lady approaches even closer with her poisoned hand, and by a narrow margin, Cirrus manages to escape. When she is hit again, Ghana starts screaming and ends up falling to the ground. The protagonist thinks that the sensation is strange and believes that he has just touched her armpit. Ghana, lying on the ground, thinks that it hurts, that attack is several times stronger than the previous one, and wonders how she ended up screaming again, realizing that this time it was the armpit that was touched, causing an itch, even if only for an instant. This is something that only Lord Azathoth would be capable of doing, yet that human also managed it. The spider lady picks something up and says that she is sorry, questioning how he, a mere human, dares to have thoughts similar to hers and what is wrong with herself. Ghana starts hitting her own head and feels relieved, saying that she has regained her senses and can now forgive herself. The protagonist is surprised to see that she attacked herself and says that that monster seems to have some kind of mental problem. Ghana states that his attack movements are very strange, and that now she is going to get serious. The spider lady draws her weapon, and Cirrus wonders if the place where she hid the weapon is not even more peculiar, thinking that the first time it was the chest, the second time the armpit against the wall, and that if he calculates based on that distance ratio, this time it should be the back. Ghana starts chasing after him and asks if he wants to escape now, saying that it is already too late. The spider lady closes in and tries to strike him with her weapon, but the protagonist narrowly manages to dodge, saying that her agility is greater than his and that he will not let this go since he was caught off guard. Ghana says that she knows. The spider lady shoots her web, wrapping him up and pinning him against the wall. Ghana approaches and says that he can no longer escape, that there he will only lose his life. Cirrus still has one hand free and thinks that his guess was correct. That area is the inner thigh. The spider lady says that it is once again that strange ability of humans. Ghana places her hand over her nose and mouth, thinking that she needs to restrain herself this time, and the protagonist continues using the ability. They remain in complete silence for a moment until the spider lady opens her eyes, removes her hand from her face, and says that if she restrains herself, as long as she does not scream, she certainly will not be attacked. Then she looks ahead, can no longer see the human, and asks where he escaped to. Cirrus appears behind her, saying that he never said he would leave. The spider lady looks back, calls him stupid, and says that she has already figured out all of his attack movements, that that was his only chance to escape, and that now all that remains is to subdue him alone. She thinks that she will seal his mouth with a spider web so that he cannot scream, and that this way his attacks will become useless against her. The protagonist says that the place she felt just now was the inner thigh. Ghana thinks that he is a disgusting human for paying so much attention to that. Cirrus says that once she is locked, everything definitely lines up, according to the proportions of her body. The next battle will be one where one side completely dominates the other, launching a fierce attack against her body and finding the sensitive point that will make her lose control. The spider lady thinks that his attacks have already been predicted by herself, and that no matter which part of the body it is, she will not emit any scream. The protagonist takes an attack stance, and Ghana widens her eyes when she sees him advancing, thinking that she cannot scream. Cirrus keeps staring at her. The spider lady thinks that the sensation this time is completely different from the previous ones, that it seems to come from the depths of the heart, but that she will restrain herself. Even though it is a deep sensation, she can still endure it because she has not betrayed him. He is still in her heart. This level of pleasure still cannot compare to him. The protagonist moves his hand and tells her to enjoy it. The ability is activated and Ghana thinks that the sensation invades her mind. Someone hidden comments that that female monster is starting to move again, saying that this is unbelievable, asking what kind of trick that is, and stating that he just made the female monster let out those moans and that he really wants to learn that trick. The spider lady wonders how that human managed to do that because the sensation comes from the depths of the heart and is far too good, something she has never felt before. The image of Lord Azathoth begins to blur and she thinks that she needs to stop all of this, that she can no longer have such thoughts. She belongs to Lord Azathoth and needs to restrain herself. The protagonist says that she did not let out any scream and that it seems the emotion just now was not enough. Ghana thinks about infusing the toxins from her body into the weapon and decides that she will not fall for it again. Cirrus releases the ability once more, and the spider lady tries to restrain herself, thinking that that feeling is unbearably strong and that she cannot even take a step forward now. She needs to eliminate him quickly so that it disappears from her heart. Ghana throws her weapon, but the protagonist manages to dodge. The spider lady orders it to release, and then the weapon begins to expel poison. Cirrus notices it, and Ghana thinks that in such a tight space, he will not be able to escape. The poison spreads throughout the surrounding area. The spider lady believes that at such close range, he will have no chance to flee, and that now, with his entire body certainly contaminated by her toxins, there is no doubt that he will perish. Cirrus appears on top of the building, completely unscathed, and says that just like the spiderweb trick she used against him before, he also deceived that attack. Ghana realizes that he is above and thinks that that human really jumped to the rooftop in that situation. The protagonist says that he will not fall for the same trick twice, and that now it is his turn. Cirrus leaps toward the ground, and the spider lady tries to restrain herself, thinking that that sensation is coming again. The protagonist gets closer and closer, and Ghana thinks that she needs to endure it, that it should end soon, and wonders why it still has not stopped. She thinks that everything happened in a flash before, and that she needs to interrupt it quickly but cannot avoid it. The spider lady screams loudly until an item breaks, a light is emitted, and an explosion occurs, leaving behind only a piercing spider. The system notifies that the enemy has been eliminated and that the weapon has returned to the system. The protagonist walks over and picks up the piercing spider. The system notifies an increase in favorability and the passive unlocked after defeating the boss, acquiring toxic fusion, capable of attaching potent poison to security weapons. Cirrus wonders if he could also attach the poison from inside his own body to weapons. Suddenly, the red-haired woman appears, saying that she caught him. Sometime earlier, Sadiel drips her plasma onto the ground, and Yug is startled when she realizes that she has vanished. Sadiel reappears at the place where her mistress is, and the demon god asks where the human is. Sadiel kneels and replies that she lost his trail. Azathoth says that that human system was originally her heart, and that if she does not recover it, she will once again become a powerless human during the night, asking if she truly lost his trail. A sound is emitted, and the demon god thinks that she knows that sensation. It is the power of the system. Azathoth moves rapidly while Sadiel remains standing still. The protagonist returns to his home and Yug continues drinking something until she notices the spider. In the present, the demon god in her strong form approaches. The protagonist looks back and Azathoth slams his head into the ground, saying that he promised to save her, but ran away halfway through, which makes her very angry. Cirrus says that he is indeed a man and also a monster, that he lied to himself about the curse and asks what she wants to do now. The demon god replies that they will continue fulfilling his promise, and the protagonist says that he has no interest in men. Azathoth then asks what he thinks of that, changes clothes trying to seduce him, and questions whether, ending like this, he would be interested. Cirrus replies that he still cannot accept that and that no matter what she does, he is not interested because he does not like men. The protagonist is about to punch her, but Azathoth easily blocks it and squeezes his hand, saying that she thought they could have fun together, but that he rejected her in the end, which is truly sad, and that now she will have to resort to harsh measures. Cirrus widens his eyes, immediately stands up, asks if she is serious, and tells her not to lick him. The demon god says that he is very sweet. Azathoth knocks him down with a long-range attack and states that no matter what he does, he will not be able to escape. The demon god flies toward him and says that she has reached the system's limit a long time ago, that if he wants to flee, he can run as much as he wants, because in the end, everything will have the same result, and asks how about trying to use the system to restrain her and increase his speed. The protagonist says that he does not want to use the system to target men, because that is his limit as a human being. Azathoth starts grabbing him and says that she will make him experience a different kind of pleasure, asking if he is not the one who needs the antidote and has always wanted to obtain it, stating that if he behaves, she will cure him. Cirrus replies that if doing that with him is the only way to obtain the demon god's plasma, then he would rather let his body melt and decompose, because he will never do that with a man. Azathoth insists and asks if he dares to resist her, saying that he really is not obedient and needs to be disciplined, that she will shove that into his body and he will end up begging. The protagonist tries to flee, but the demon god keeps dragging him at any cost until he disappears. The system notifies that it refused the return, that all attacks against Cirrus are useless, and asks whether the host would sacrifice 50% of his life for a chance to eliminate Azathoth. The protagonist asks whether, in the current situation, there is still any need to ask and answers, that of course he chooses yes. The system notifies that when the host locks onto the target Azathoth, the Spear of Oblivion will be activated, and afterward, the demon god will be completely absorbed by the host, allowing the detoxification of the poison. Life enters a countdown of 50 days. The demon god wonders whether the system has really reached the point of refusing to return to her body and thinks that this is unbelievable. Cirrus thinks that within 10 meters, as long as he can see her, he can lock onto her and orders the lock. A red light is emitted, causing enormous pressure. The protagonist wonders if it was really him who did that and thinks it is extremely intense, barely able to keep his eyes open. Azathoth cuts her own hand and Sadiel in the forest asks why the palm of her hand is suddenly releasing plasma. The plasma falls to the ground and the demon god is summoned there, saying it was a close call and that she almost lost her life. On the other side, Azathoth's location appears marked in red. The protagonist wonders if the system blocked the location and thinks that that individual is truly incredible, since he crossed an absurd distance in a single instant. In the forest, Sadiel comments that she is sweating heavily and asks if she is injured. The demon god replies that there is no one there capable of hurting her, says that she drank her plasma and that now their bodies are resonating with each other, explaining that if she were injured, the damage would be transferred to Sadiel first. Sadiel asks whether she took care of that human, and Azathoth answers no, stating that now all attacks are useless against that human, and asks whether Sadiel is happy that he was not finished off. Sadiel says this is serious, claims that she hates that disgusting human, and, since she cannot hurt him, asks whether they should return to the dungeon. The demon god answers no, saying that she has lived alongside the system for thousands of years and knows it very well, that this made her attacks useless against that human, but that pleasure does not fall under the category of attack, and that she can make him feel pleasure all the way until the end. She explains that the system's selection of a combat-capable host within a symbiotic body is extremely difficult, and that when that human loses his life, the system will only be able to choose her, causing her to become human again and preventing the system from continuing to track her observation. She tells Sadiel to go find that human again that night, asks whether she learned magical transformation, and orders her to try it on herself. Sadiel replies that she has, and Azathoth says that at night she will lose all her magic and will have to rely on Sadiel to perform the transformation on her. Sadiel uses the transformation, completely changing the demon god's appearance, and Azathoth comments that it does not look bad at all. Sadiel asks whether she can eliminate that human decisively, and the demon god replies that of course she can, asking how Sadiel thinks she herself lost her life, saying that now she has been abandoned by the system. Azathoth strikes a tree and says that the more she thinks about it, the more irritated she becomes, questioning why the system rejected her and what that human has that is so special. Elsewhere, the protagonist thinks that he only has 50 days of life left, and that if he can find the demon god within that period, he can heal himself and survive. Time is critical, so he needs to act quickly. Then Cirrus feels a bad sensation and thinks that the poison in his body is acting again, wondering if this time it is his feet since he feels an intense burning in them. The protagonist begins screaming nonstop in great pain, while the vice president observes him from afar. Later, in the hospital, Cirrus wakes up, and the doctor says that he has awakened and asks for Lord Charlton to be informed immediately. Cirrus asks if he is in the hospital and who brought him there, and the doctor replies that it was the vice president. Then someone opens the door, the vice president enters and says that he finally woke up, asking if he remembers saving his life. The protagonist says that he is the fat man who was cornered by a spider, and Charlton smiles, confirming that he is. Cirrus asks how long he was unconscious, and the vice president replies that it was about 13 hours, making the protagonist surprised that he was out for so long. Charlton apologizes for his impatience and carelessness, saying that he hopes he did not disturb his rest, and comments that he saw the battle against the female spider monster, stating that that magic is truly exceptional. He adds that as men grow older, some abilities tend to decline and they lose interest in certain things, but that battle was impressive, intense, and extremely intriguing, and that if he could learn that magic, he would certainly regain his youth and rid himself of the suffering of the last 10 years. Charlton asks Cirrus to teach him that magic and accept him as a disciple. Cirrus is surprised, wondering if he truly wants to become his disciple, and thinks that if he became his master, he could use the guild's resources to locate Azathoth, which would certainly be useful. However, he knows that this is a system ability, and wonders how he could teach it, so he says that this magic is very difficult to learn, and asks whether Charlton can accept that. The vice president replies confidently that no matter how difficult it is, it must be tried, because as the saying goes, the master only leads one to the door, but practice depends on the individual and states that he will give it his all to learn, even if it costs him his own life. The protagonist says that the magic he witnessed needs to be executed practically from the fingertips. Charlton kneels and asks to be accepted as a disciple, and Cirrus asks him to stand up immediately. The vice president states that this matter must not be spread since he still holds the position of vice president of the Adventurers Guild, and the protagonist says that as his master, he understands. Daisy knocks on the door and says that she has something to report, and after being allowed to enter, presents the conviction warrant for desertion with a sentence of execution. Cirrus asks whether he was convicted of desertion with a sentence of execution, and Daisy replies that the documents indicate that he disobeyed the squad captain's orders and fled without permission. The vice president comments that the matter is quite complicated, and the protagonist says that he did not flee because the dungeon boss had already settled everything. Daisy states that she found information about the squad's withdrawal, but says it is hard to believe since he is ranked F, along with Bella, ranked C, and Tri, ranked B, and the three of them defeated the monster boss Naya, something simply impossible. Cirrus says that he can send someone to Naya's dungeon to confirm his statement, and Daisy replies that the location is already empty because someone was sent there, but that during the investigation he will need to be detained to prevent any attempt to flee. The vice president says that it is not necessary because he trusts his words, but Daisy says that this goes against the rules. Charlton declares that during the investigation process he himself will take responsibility for supervising him, but that Cirrus needs to attend the guild's Thanksgiving dinner that night and may accompany him. Daisy says that the dinner is of great importance and asks him to reconsider, and the protagonist replies that he has never attended the guild before, but the vice president says that it is decided that he will not interrupt his rest and that he will pick him up for the dinner. They leave the room and close the door. Cirrus continues thinking about Azathoth and that he needs to hunt her, then opens the system panel and realizes that the demon god has run out of the city. The protagonist finds this strange since he is in the hospital and the target seems to be very close. Elsewhere, Cirrus enters through the window saying that he is home, opens the door, searches everywhere, and realizes that the spider is still there. He keeps searching, does not find Yug, and wonders if she was captured. In another place, Yug is imprisoned together with Azathoth under magical transformation, and asks where they are while the demon god answers that it is a monster and human auction house. The protagonist continues searching for the demon god non-stop and realizes that it has been half an hour since she moved, now being very close. Cirrus reaches the mountains and realizes that the location disappears, and that at night it will be impossible to track her. Then someone approaches trying to attack him, but the protagonist dodges and the wall is struck. Cirrus retreats and the guard says that this is the territory of the Stellar Cavalry, stating that whether monsters or heroes, intruders will be treated without mercy. The protagonist wonders about the Stellar Cavalry and thinks that they are bandits who thrive on kidnappings. More guards appear above and comment that another brave hero is coming to be destroyed, saying that female monsters and women in prison are probably bait released to lure them out of position, and that there may be other heroes lurking, ready to be captured and interrogated. The protagonist thinks that the mentioned female monster must be Yug, and also wants to ask whether they have seen any perverted monsters around. The system notifies that the weapon return mission will begin in 2 minutes, and Cirrus thinks that once this mission starts, his stats will return to their initial state, rank F, with only 2 minutes left, so he needs to act quickly. Inside, Yug cannot break the chain on her arm and says that there is a restraining magic, that without feeding on a man, her body has become very weak. She wonders if she will be able to endure it since she ended up returning to the place where the master lives. Azathoth asks whether she is not a monster and whether she should not want to return to the dungeon, and Yug replies that she does not have that kind of mentality, that like lizards she naturally trusts the essence of males, and that she instinctively chose a stronger guy because human lairs are much better than monster caves. Until an explosion happens when a guard is thrown against the wall, cracking it. The protagonist manages to defeat the guards in 2 minutes and says that if they had handed over the keys earlier, they would not have been beaten. The system notifies that the weapon return time has been activated, requiring giving 10 slaps on someone's butt until they make a sound, with a 60-minute countdown. Cirrus grabs one of the unconscious guards and tells him to wake up, asking if he can make any sound, but realizes that he is completely unconscious and thinks that he should not have hit him so hard. Azathoth tells him to save her. The protagonist thinks that they are in the outskirts, that monsters could appear at any moment, and that it is very dangerous to be without the power of the system. So he decides to complete the mission first. Cirrus uses the key to free Yug and slaps her. Yug asks what he is doing, and the system notifies that the mission is at 1 bar out of 10. The protagonist says that to ensure a safe departure from there, he needs to beat her butt, and that she needs to endure it. Azathoth thinks that he is definitely not a good guy, and that when dealing with this type of man, all one needs to do is flirt a little, because he falls easily, unable to believe that he invented such an absurd excuse just to take advantage of her. Even so, Azathoth tells him to help free her, and that as long as he saves her, she does not mind taking a beating, even being willing to offer herself. Cirrus opens the chain and Azathoth immediately hugs him, calling him a brave hero. She says that they were going to sell her to goblins and that now, if he rescues her, she will be his. The protagonist opens his palm and starts striking until there is complete silence. Cirrus asks if she's not making any sound, and Azathoth tells him to do it again. The system notifies that without producing a sound, the presenter will be frozen for 5 minutes. The protagonist falls to the ground. Yug approaches him and says that she is feeling very uncomfortable now, that she needs the essence and plasma from his body. Otherwise, she will truly collapse and lose her life, asking why he is not saying anything, and stating that she will assume he agrees and will begin. Yug starts drinking his plasma. Azathoth calls her a perverted lizard and says that she dared to move while she was not looking, ordering her to let him go. Yug wraps her tail around Azathoth and says that this is her master, not hers, and that besides, she arrived first. Azathoth thinks that if it were daytime now, she would have already slapped her, but that the important thing is to recover the system, with no need to argue. Then they will do it, the 3 of them. The protagonist opens his eyes and wonders if that woman is being held against her will, and why she would do this kind of thing. Sadiel, hidden and observing, wonders if she really wants to do this and thinks that the sensations of her body are shared with her. While Sadiel keeps watching, she feels something and starts screaming. At the same time, Azathoth moves the protagonist's hand, and Sadiel thinks that his entire body is beginning to go numb, with chills running all over her. A noise is emitted, the demon god smiles, and Cirrus thinks not to touch there. Sadiel wonders whether his hand seems to be holding something. Azathoth notices something and thinks that the squeezing sensation feels familiar, seeming to belong to the demon god. Azathoth watches him and wonders why his gaze toward her has changed, until the demon god realizes that it is the technique, that he used the same one without realizing it, exposing himself in the process. A very loud noise is emitted. Yug gets scared and changes her form, saying to protect her. Great impacts occur at the location, and the protagonist thinks that Azathoth actually transformed into a woman to get close, and that he himself encountered her, being unable to use the system or any skills now, with no way to pursue her. The system notifies that the frozen time has ended. Cirrus says that he ran very fast, that he will first finish the mission, and once it is completed, he will be able to access the system, and then he will go after Azathoth, thinking that he will have to be careful with any person of the opposite sex who approaches him. At the gate of Area Z, the warriors tell the captain that he is there, and the protagonist wonders about the vice president, the secretary, and Cyrus. The captain says that he matches the confirmed description and is being arrogant, presents the arrest warrant, and tells him to come with them. Someone approaches and asks them to wait a moment. Daisy says that she is the vice president's secretary, that they investigated the Naya dungeon and it is empty, which contradicts the accusation, and that the process to revoke the warrant has already begun. She also says that they cannot arrest him because he is scheduled to participate in the Guild Association Appreciation Banquet later. Cyrus accuses her and says that it is obvious she is lying because only captains of rank A or higher are allowed at the appreciation banquet, and that if she keeps causing trouble, he will also throw her into the interrogation room. The protagonist says to bring the vice president to authorize it and present the revocation to rescue him, stating that he will certainly help, and asks whether she can do that in 20 minutes. Daisy asks for 10 minutes. Cirrus says that he will make him apologize to her later. In the interrogation room, Cyrus asks how his right hand was injured and whether he still remembers, saying that he fought bravely with his team in the battle against the monster Naye, and that he escaped unscathed by attacking from behind, giving Naye an opportunity that led to the elimination of his team members. He says that he himself sacrificed his right hand to save the lives of the remaining team members. The captain slams the table and asks whether a coward like him deserves to live or to lose his life. The protagonist replies that a coward who runs away when facing the enemy does indeed deserve to lose his life like an animal. Cyrus stares at him with plasma in his eyes and orders them to bring the hammer. Cirrus thinks that 10 minutes have already passed and that the secretary should arrive soon. He still cannot access the system and can only endure for now. Yug, hidden in his pocket, says that he cannot hurt him, that she absorbed some blood essence and restored part of her magical power, which is more than enough to withstand human torture, and that after they get home, he will have to pay double. The captain slams the hammer onto the table and tells him to choose one of his fingers to start with, or perhaps he will choose for him. Someone opens the door and says that this is not good, that the secretary and the vice have arrived with the revocation notice, and that the warrant and the investigation were based on false information, with everything being revoked. The warriors realize that that woman is indeed the vice president's secretary and wonder whether they even know her, and how a rank F hero could have contact with someone of the vice president's level, then ask whether they should release him. Cyrus replies that using torture after receiving a revocation notice is illegal, but that they are not to release him, instead to bring that notice back in half an hour because he has not officially received the revocation yet and did not know about it. The protagonist stares at him in fury, and the captain says that he must pay the price today. Outside, the warrior says that the captain has not come out yet and that she does not have permission to enter, because that is the interrogation room, and that she does not have the authority to enter and leave whenever she wants. Daisy tells him to get out of the way, stating that she will personally show the revocation notice. Cyrus slams the hammer down on his hand and Cirrus smiles. When the hammer is removed, the captain wonders what happened, because no bone was broken, there is no plasma, and not even a scratch on the skin. Meanwhile, outside, the warrior insists that she has no authority to enter, until someone approaches and asks whether he then has the authority to block the entrance. They look to the side and the door is opened by the vice president. Cyrus is startled when he sees him and asks why he is there. Charlton says that this is the notice revoking Cirrus's arrest warrant and that he must be released. The captain throws the hammer to the ground and replies that he understands. The protagonist's hands are freed, and the vice president says that he, as a captain, abused his power to torture and subdue him, and that if this matter is investigated, he will at the very least be dismissed from his captaincy. Cyrus says that he had not received the revocation and that this is why he took such action, claiming that his men can testify for him and orders them to testify. The warriors feel awkward, thinking that they do not want to offend the vice president. Charlton says that he is at a loss for words. Cirrus says that he can testify that he truly did not see the revocation and that he will not pursue the matter of having him arrested. However, he must bow and apologize to the secretary. Daisy is surprised and everyone bows and apologizes. Then, the protagonist picks up a weapon and says that treating such a beautiful secretary with rudeness was disrespectful, and Cirrus begins to strike their backsides with the weapon in hand, with only screams being heard saying that they were wrong and would not dare do it again. The system notifies that the weapon has been returned and that the mission has been completed. The protagonist says that it is finally over, that the matter between him and the secretary is settled, and the captain asks what he means by that. Cirrus grabs his arm and says that he will resolve the matter between the two of them, and the captain asks whether he had not said that he would not pursue the matter of arresting him. The protagonist replies that this concerns the matter of him having struck his hand. Cyrus, screaming in great pain, apologizes and admits that he was wrong, begging for forgiveness. Cirrus continues twisting his arm until it breaks. The captain falls to the ground, beginning to scream desperately, and the protagonist walks away saying that he now forgives him. Charlton says that his secretary will take him to the banquet and that he needs to meet the envoy of the Holy See first, and after that he will meet him. Cirrus is surprised to hear that name. They establish the church with the mission of eliminating all evil thoughts from the world, possessing incomparable purification magic capable of eliminating any toxin from the body. And if they want to eliminate evil thoughts, they must first fully understand them. In the appreciation banquet hall, the Saintess of the Holy See approaches together with the vice president. The people nearby ask whether it is not somewhat inappropriate for a saint to dress that way. The saint stops walking, turns to them, and says that the doctrine is to eliminate all evil thoughts from the world, and that this is why the people of the Holy See dress this way, so that they are not observed with their filthy eyes. And Charlton orders the guards to give 10 slaps to those who spoke. The saint says that it is not necessary because if they punish them for that, then everyone there should be punished, except the vice president. Charlton asks how he is different from them, and the saint replies that his mind is in turmoil, but his body is not reacting much. The vice president says that he is a person with a pure heart and therefore has self-control. The people nearby comment that they heard he was impotent, and that judging by this, it seems to be true. Later, still in the same place, a voice announces that this is the venue of the appreciation banquet. Outside, Daisy tells them to enter, and the protagonist agrees, asking whether the purification of sacred magic is powerful. The secretary replies that certainly it is, as it is their unique magic. From lost limbs to severe illnesses and poisonings, they can cure everything. Being a hero is a high-risk profession, and heroes from every region have already tried to collaborate with them, but all were rejected. They do not easily use magic on others, and the reason lies in evil thoughts. Cirrus thinks that perhaps they might be able to cure the poison within himself and wants to try to find them. At the entrance, the card is swiped, the identification is confirmed, and the guard tells them to enter. The protagonist asks why they are gathered there, and the vice president approaches, saying that the saint is testing eligibility to cooperate with the Holy See and that whoever passes will receive a reward. The saint says that this is the treasure of the Holy See, the sacred veil of the heart, and that each person's heart will be revealed by the gemstones. The possibility of cooperation with the Holy See depends on purity, and no hero guild from other regions has succeeded so far. The people grow curious and ask how the purity of the heart is measured, what is inside it, and whether there could be any kind of mechanism. The saint replies that if they want to find out, they should leave, then come back in and try it themselves. A man says he will try, claiming to have a pure heart and to have never done anything shameful. It is Logan, captain of Team 7. The saint smiles, Logan enters, and ahead of him there is someone, a Catwoman. Logan thinks she is magnificent. The Catwoman approaches, Logan turns red and thinks she took the initiative to come closer to him. She looks at him and Logan goes crazy, saying that she is truly magnificent, and that she could let him do something with her. The Catwoman asks what he wants to do, whether it is caressing. Logan replies that this is a magnificent place, and she tells him to stop it, calling him disgusting. The Catwoman pushes him out, throwing him far away. The stone marks 88%, and the saint thinks that the malicious thought level was 88%. Clearly someone with a filthy heart. A young man tells them to observe the crystal because whatever is inside must be very dangerous. Owen says he will check it, no matter what it is, he will handle it himself. When Owen enters, he's also thrown far away, and people comment that he is bleeding a lot, asking if he's alright. On the crystal, it appears that his filthy thought level is 92%. Several people try, but all of them have malicious thoughts. The saint thinks that this is just a waste of time. There is not even a single one below 80. All of them are filthy inside. No one should be able to pass the test. Until someone approaches, it is the protagonist, saying that it is his turn to try. The saint thinks that he is the last one. When Cirrus enters, he comes face to face with the Catwoman, who asks whether he wants to. Cirrus grabs her face, throws her to the ground, and says that it is another woman proactively approaching him, thinking that he needs to be more cautious because it is very likely to be Azathoth again. The Catwoman comments that it is the first time a man has proactively rejected her. Then the saint notices something, looks at the stone above, and sees 0%, saying that this is the first time she has ever seen this, someone truly calm like still water. The protagonist thinks that before confirming her identity, it is better to be cautious, and the system starts, asking whether he wishes to lock onto the enemy. notifying the use of Azathoth's Spear of Forgetting. Sirius thinks that he has only one chance. If he makes a mistake and faces the demon god again, he will truly be doomed. The Catwoman thinks that it is the first time she has been rejected by a man, and he even stepped away. He observes her intently, yet there are no traces of malicious thoughts. He even seems a little hostile toward her. The protagonist thinks that he must stay alert to her movements. The Catwoman finds this even more irritating than those who covet her body, because it is a rejection of her charm, and decides to find a way to make his heart race. Sirius thinks that he needs to find a chance to check whether she has any masculine traits. The Catwoman asks him not to stare at her with so much hostility, saying that a warm and gentle hug could help them connect, and approaches to hug him, but the protagonist dodges. She wonders if she was avoided and rejected again, steps back and tells him not to be shy, thinking that once he feels the softness, his heart will surely be touched. Sirius thinks that the angle is perfect, and that he can see something beneath her. The protagonist moves quickly downward, observing carefully, thinking that he only needs to move his eyes a little. The Catwoman thinks that even while he is dodging, he is still staring fixedly at her breasts. Sirius moves, dodging once more, and the Catwoman wonders why. The protagonist says that he simply cannot look away from it, because it is truly magnificent, and the Catwoman asks why. He was clearly looking at her breasts, just like everyone else, and his body also reacted, yet in his heart there is not a single trace of malicious thoughts. And she asks the reason. The Catwoman cannot understand, and Sirius replies that he is an upright person and has no obscene thoughts about her body. Born into this world, it is breasts that provide milk and nutrients, allowing one to grow strong and survive. And so he looks at her breasts with a heart full of gratitude. The Catwoman is left speechless and thinks that, originally, he is simply that kind of person. An intense light surrounds the protagonist. The Catwoman says that he has passed the test and can leave. Sirius wonders whether she is really letting him go, and thinks that it seems she truly is not Azathoth. The protagonist walks away, leaving the place, while the Catwoman lies down on the ground and says that her training might not have been sufficient. The people look and notice that the crystal is at 0%, which is absurd, because there is no way a man would have no malicious thoughts in front of that Catwoman. Perhaps the crystal is broken. The Saint says that this is the first time she has ever seen someone with a completely pure heart. Sirius says that he passed the test and asks whether he can use the purification magic on himself to remove the poison. And the Saint replies that of course he can, asking everyone to leave. Later, still in the same place after everyone leaves, the Saint says that she will detoxify him now and that he should lie down. The protagonist asks whether he needs to do anything else, and the Saint tells him not to move. The purification magic was granted by the Holy See, and each person has a different part of the body that performs the magic. The Saint removes her shoes and says that her purification magic is in her feet, using steps to carry it out. She says that while she is using the purification magic, he must not harbor malicious thoughts. Otherwise, the magic will gradually lose its effect. Sirius asks about these malicious thoughts, whether they refer only to him. And the Saint answers yes, and that from the moment she became a saint of the Holy See, her desires were taken away. Now he must completely relax, because she will move from top to bottom. This is a necessary process to evaluate his physical condition in order to treat the body more precisely. The Saint moves her foot along his arm and hand, and the protagonist thinks that she wants to use her foot to move his hand. The Saint tells him not to move, that she will do it herself, otherwise it will affect her ability to cast the magic. The chair is pressed against the wall and she will use his face as support. While the Saint rests one foot on his face, she moves the other along his body and says that she is starting. The pressure increases, becoming more and more intense. Sirius appears in another place, blue, and the protagonist asks why he is floating in the water and where he is. The Saint's foot appears in that place as well, moving closer to him. Sirius thinks it is very heavy and starts screaming. Outside that place, the Saint lifts her foot and tells him to relax and not to resist the foot, because this is part of the healing process. She is using the purification magic to project his consciousness into a part of his body and will pull him out of the water, and his fingers will be fine. In the consciousness, the Saint moves her foot toward him again. The protagonist grabs her foot, and the Saint says that she will pull him out in one go. Sirius says that something below the water is wrapping around him, and the Saint says that those are the poisons in his body. The particles beneath the water try to pull him down, and the Saint tells him to hold on to the foot. The protagonist grabs it and bites the pantyhose, thinking that he needs to tear it open to expose it. Otherwise, he will not get a firm grip. The Saint says that he tore it to pieces and that this is rude. Sirius wedges himself between her toes to hold on, while something pulls him from under the water, and he thinks that even though she is squeezing him hard, he does not feel pain. Instead, he feels very comfortable. Her toes are warm. In the consciousness, the protagonist manages to free himself from the particles, and outside the consciousness, the finger that was between her toes also slips free. Cirrus realizes that it is working, and the saint says that she feels there is another trace and that he needs to take off his shoe. Then the protagonist removes the shoe, and the saint moves her foot close to his foot and says that his limbs have been restored. Cirrus thinks that the purification magic is incredible, and the saint says that now she needs to change direction. She has found the location of the poison in his body and they need to work together to detoxify it. He must not move. Then the saint moves her foot, and the protagonist wonders if it is there. The saint says that she will push it downward. He needs to pull the poison to the surface, and it will disappear, and the body will be detoxified. Cirrus says that he cannot breathe under the water. The saint tells him not to panic, that being enveloped like this, he will be fine, and that she will help him expel all the poison, continuously strengthening his power. The protagonist realizes that he is getting bigger and asks whether this is the poison in his body. Cirrus approaches the water and the saint notices something, feeling her body strange, while the system notifies that it has been locked, favorability 1%. The protagonist screams loudly and the poison coils around his entire body. The saint says that this water represents the body of consciousness. He needs to use magic to create a shield around his body, overcome these poisons, and resonate with the magic itself, and Cirrus tells her to hurry because he is already entangled. The saint says that she is starting now. The protagonist says that the poisons are being destroyed. The saint says that the shield has been set up for him and that he needs to swim downward and try. Cirrus starts swimming and says that it works. The shield is tearing the poisons apart, and in this way he can get close to the source of the poison soon. The protagonist keeps swimming and asks why he has still not gotten closer, saying that he has swum a long distance and should have reached it by now. The saint says that he cannot use real-world distance to judge distance within bodily consciousness, because what seems close is actually far, and she thinks that to maintain that shield she needs to keep rubbing continuously, which will be extremely exhausting. She feels a sense of joy spreading from her feet, and this is strange. Then the protagonist notices something and says that her shield is cracking. The saint says that her purification magic is weakening, and that if he wants to detoxify himself, he must stop having impure thoughts about her, otherwise the purification magic will fail. Within the consciousness, the shield shatters, and the poison coils around the protagonist's body as he struggles to breathe. The saint thinks that she needs to rub harder to repair the shield quickly. The purification magic must not fail, and the favorability keeps increasing. In the consciousness, the protagonist is suffering greatly, until outside the consciousness, Cirrus opens his eyes and looks at her. The saint thinks that she has to fix the shield. When she stepped on him, there truly was an inexplicable pleasure, and she wants to keep stepping on him, until someone calls out to her, and the saint asks whether he has already returned to reality. The protagonist answers yes, and the saint says that the treatment failed. She wonders about what just happened to herself, and thinks that her heart is beating very fast now, and this sensation feels very familiar, resembling impure thoughts. Thoughts that cause the purification magic to fail. She must never let anyone know about this, because it concerns the dignity of the Holy See. She says that his treatment is over. Cirrus asks whether she also cannot remove the poison from his body, and the saint replies that of course she can. There is no poison she herself cannot cure. As soon as she finds a way to reach the source of the poison, she will inform him, but she can still heal his limbs. The saint also says that he can go to the Holy See at any time to find her, and that her name is Lilia. That is all for today. The protagonist thinks that, indeed, to detoxify himself, finding Azathoth is essential after all. The saint leans against the wall and thinks that she almost could not restrain herself. Her desire was taken away, and she does not know why she still feels this way, but it is different. It is incredible. Elsewhere, Cyrus is sent flying by a blow. Darren, very irritated, asks whether he cannot handle something so small. Cyrus says that it was the vice president this time, and Darren tells him to shut up, saying that he does not want to hear excuses. Darren throws a card onto the ground and says that this is the map of the Shia Class A dungeon, and that he is leading the team. Cyrus says that the boss, Shia, is Class SS, and that he himself is only Class A, and that he would not be sent for the finalization. Darren says that the Shia dungeon has already been almost conquered by heroes from Area K, and that according to information from the heroes who returned, the boss Shia was severely damaged, and that even rank F heroes can defeat it now. He intercepted and blocked this information in advance. Now this is Cyrus's chance to take advantage and secure the position of captain. Cyrus becomes excited and says that this time he will definitely succeed. Elsewhere, someone pours plasma into Shia's mouth. It is Azathoth, saying that after drinking so much of her plasma, his body should be recovering now. Shia smiles and quickly stands up. saying that he has been completely revived. Smiling, Shia says that she saved him once again and asks whether there is anything he can do to repay her, saying that he does not want to owe anything. The demon god replies that it is simple, that he only needs to eliminate a human. The protagonist elsewhere observes Azathoth's location and says that she traveled to such a distant place. The vice president approaches and says that he made a significant contribution this time, that Area Z will cooperate with the Holy See, that their strength has increased considerably, and that if he has any request, he can let them know. Cirrus asks for the position of captain and says that with that position, he will have the right to choose which dungeon to go to. He goes home to prepare, will leave the city at noon, and thinks that he only has 49 days left and cannot waste any more time. Charlton asks whether it is that urgent and says that they are currently understaffed at the guild, but that the promotion process to captain can be completed by noon. Daisy says that she can help since she is familiar with the procedure and should be able to finish it before noon, and asks him to consider a thank you gift for helping defeat Cyrus. Elsewhere, Yug is waiting for him and says that she cleaned the entire house and also finished all the food. Now the house is spotless. She herself is the kind of maid every human man dreams of having, and the protagonist says that she is amazing, but that she could have saved a little food for him, and Yug says that she will save some next time. She herself is so useful and can stay there forever, so Cirrus asks whether she does not want to go home. Yug asks about home and says that for a monster, there is only a lair. There is no home. Yug pinches his cheeks. The protagonist pushes her hand away and says that she must not let anyone discover that she is a monster. After all, this is a human city. Otherwise, the two of them will be in trouble. Yug says he can rest assured because she is very good at hiding, and the system notifies that favorability has been reached 100%. After getting closer to her, the value increase doubles. Yug says that now her job is done and that it is his turn. Cirrus asks his turn for what, and Yug says that in the dungeon she blocked several hammer blows for him and used a lot of magic, and that he promised to pay double. The protagonist thinks that getting closer to her can give him more strength, which would be very useful for the journey ahead, assuming it is a gain. Elsewhere, someone is driving. It is Daisy, saying that she should be arriving at Cirrus's house soon. Meanwhile, inside his house, Yug tears his clothes and says that his body is truly fantastic, unable to resist the urge to get closer, almost wanting to devour him in a single bite, and the system notifies an increase in defense, agility, and attack power. Yug thinks that her magical power is beginning to recover little by little, keeps pulling him to bite him and apologizes, saying that she got too excited for a moment and forgot her own strength. Then the doorbell rings. Yug asks if someone came. The protagonist replies that it is probably the secretary delivering the promotion notice and that she should hide for a while. Yug hides. Cirrus opens the door and says that he had just gone into the shower, so he was late to open. Daisy says that she has already completed the process and that there is his promotion, and that she also brought fruit. The protagonist says that this is great, and the secretary says that if he liked it, she can bring more next time. Yug listens while hiding and says that she seems like a woman. Daisy says that if he needs any help in the future, she can help him, and Cirrus replies that he knows. Yug approaches and says that the two of them seem to be getting along well. Daisy asks who she is and thinks that she is so tall. The protagonist feels awkward, not knowing what to answer, and wonders if she transformed into a human. Yug says that she is his little sister. Daisy gets irritated seeing the intimacy between the two, takes the fruit back, and leaves. Yug says that she used a bit of transformation magic, and Cirrus says that they are out of food again. Daisy throws the fruit into the trash. Later at the house, the protagonist puts on his armor and says that he has an important task for her, that she needs to transform into a human and buy food but must not be caught. Yug says not to worry, that she will complete the task. Cirrus thinks that he needs to find Azathoth, opens the door and finds a bag on the ground near the door. It is the fruit along with a note, and it says for him not to be angry with her about before. Elsewhere, people are gathered and talk about how the journey was smooth and that not even a single trap was triggered at all, that following the captain was truly the best choice. And the captain says that this is power, that he really hit the lottery this time. Cyrus thinks that with the map his brother gave him, this entire journey feels like just entering a park. A young man says that the previous team failed to conquer it and that they themselves will use the items left behind to defeat the boss. They will be furious when they find out. The captain asks what can be done about that and says that the guild's rule is that the team that defeats the boss first keeps all the resources. If the information leaked, they will have to accept it. On the other side, the monster falls to the ground and the system notifies that a rank A monster, a rock giant, has been defeated, and that the map of this area has been obtained. The protagonist says that his stats have increased significantly and that defeating rank A monsters is already a breeze, thinking that all of this is thanks to Yug. He says that Azathoth advanced deep inside the dungeon all the way to the boss room. Later, elsewhere, the team hears a noise, and Cyrus tells them to stay alert because there is something to the left. They notice someone approaching. The captain watches carefully and realizes that it is Cyrus, wondering what he is doing there and whether he came to steal the victory. He asks what Cyrus is doing there, and the protagonist replies that he is there just like them, hunting monsters. Cyrus asks where his team is, and Cyrus replies that he came alone, is in a hurry, and thinks that running into them is bad luck. The captain wonders whether he is conquering this class of dungeon alone, and thinks that Cyrus must know that the boss Shia is weak. This guy is even greedier than he is and wants to take all the credit for himself. He shouts for everyone to move quickly, thinking that he cannot let him find the weakened Shia first and steal the credit. The protagonist opens the map, and the system notifies that the map has been opened. All items will be requested. The bunker scepter, this sword, and the paths ahead will switch from left to right, and they can be used to deactivate or activate traps. Cyrus thinks that according to his brother's map, there is a fork just ahead. The path on the right is a dead end, and the one on the left is the correct one. They start running. The captain looks at Cyrus and thinks that this sword cannot be drawn, seeming that his intelligence is not as good as his own. As soon as he takes the left path, he will seal it behind himself. Cyrus will receive no credit until a monster appears. They look and realize it is a dragon, and a woman is striking the enemy. Cyrus wonders why there is a dragon there, and thinks that his brother's map and the information did not mention this. The dragon swings its tail, destroying everything around it, and the captain says that the wall is collapsing and that they must retreat. The dragon is about to fall from the blow the woman just delivered. The warrior attacks it again, and the captain says that the dragon is falling and that they should dodge. The dragon crashes to the ground, and Cyrus is shocked to see that she brought it down with her bare hands. The warrior also lands on the ground. It is Dapin, rank S from Area K, and she asks which area they are from. The captain says they are from Area Z, a team from Area Z, and Dapin asks whether they are also there to conquer the Shia dungeon. Cyrus answers yes. Dapin says that Area K did not request support from Area Z and asks whether he is trying to compete with her. The captain thinks that fighting Dapin would not end well. Cyrus says that if they cannot cooperate, it would be an honor to fight alongside her. Dapin replies that he probably will not have that chance. She never cooperates with others. Only the weak rely on others. An item begins to float near her ear, and a voice asks for help, asking whether there are any heroes nearby and saying that there is a dragon there, requesting support. Dapin says that if he is afraid, he should go home and not cause trouble, and that they are not qualified to be her rivals. When she returns, she does not want to see any of them, and they should take this as a warning. A noise is heard. Dapin begins to fly and thinks that, judging by the sound, it should not be very far from there. The protagonist is impressed that she can fly. The captain thinks this is the perfect opportunity. Before that woman comes back, he himself will find the boss Shia and finish this, because with this map, he will definitely succeed. Cyrus says that they are in such a hurry. There should be a mechanism there. The captain, together with his team, goes in, and Cyrus says that he sealed that place, that all the credit will be theirs. The system notifies that magical power is being depleted rapidly. The protagonist draws the sword, and people notice the area trembling. The system notifies that the bunker scepter has been obtained, and Cyrus says they will follow the correct path. The captain says that the people from Area K already eliminated all the monsters on the way to the boss room and that they should reach it soon. As for the monsters on the other road, that is uncertain. Cyrus came alone and is definitely finished this time. He thinks Cyrus wants to compete with them and says that they have already wasted enough time and should move quickly because they are already one step ahead. A warrior tells the captain to look ahead. When they look, they see several wolves, and Cyrus asks what is going on, saying that there should not be any monsters on that road. The wolves charge toward them, and the captain orders everyone to prepare for battle. In Shia's boss room, Azathoth is sitting and says that she is exhausted, that she has never seen a monster drink so much plasma, and warns Shia not to disappoint her. Shia says that he feels his body different from before, with a constant flow of power emerging from him. Sadiel asks whether he can really eliminate that human, and the demon god replies that in terms of pure strength he definitely can, but Sadiel says that that human seems to grow stronger during battle. Azathoth says that not this time because all the monsters in that dungeon are male. On the other side, the protagonist realizes that there is a pack ahead and says that after exhausting so much magical power, he will try to use the sword he just drew. The system notifies that using that sword to cut the indicated points can activate mechanisms. On the ground, an arrow storm is triggered until something emerges from the soil and numerous arrows strike the wolves. They try to advance but are cut down by the arrows. Cyrus thinks that their hides are quite tough, but even so they keep coming at him. The protagonist swings the sword, cutting a wolf in half. Another tries to charge, but Cirrus raises the sword and strikes it head-on. Meanwhile, on the other side, Cyrus and the team run in panic, saying that those wolves are definitely stronger than rank B ones. They run very fast, but realize that the gate is closed. The warriors say they are screwed because the path they came through was sealed by the captain, and now they are in serious trouble while the wolves chase them. Cyrus orders them to hold the wolves back while he checks the map to find a way to open the gate. The warriors raise barriers and tell him to hurry because they will not be able to hold them off much longer. The captain studies the map and realizes that it only shows mechanisms to seal the gate with no mechanism to open it. On the other side, the wolves charge together with their mouths wide open, but the protagonist dodges both and takes an attack stance. The system notifies Stone Gate. The two wolves rush forward. Cirrus moves the sword to close the gate and crushes them. On the other side, the gate opens, and the warriors say that the captain opened the gate. Cyrus wonders how the gate opened by itself. The captain tries to run, but a wolf bites his leg. On the other side, the protagonist says it was easily dealt with. The gate opens again and the wolves are crushed. On the other side, the gate closes, and the wolf that bit the captain's leg has its body torn apart as it is crushed by the gate. Cyrus's foot is injured. On the other side, after Cirrus eliminates the wolves, he walks away. On the other side, a warrior helps the captain walk and says that his leg is already severely injured, asking whether they really need to continue because he feels that the monsters there are unusually strong and questioning whether they should retreat and rest for a while. Cyrus says to keep moving forward and thinks that he has the map. If he goes back now without any credit, his brother will definitely kill him. All the monsters there have already been dealt with. The structure of the road matches the map perfectly. This is the correct path. The map was drawn in reverse, and his brother almost got him killed. They stop walking and realize there is another fork in the road, asking which path they should take this time. The captain thinks that the map shows the path on the right, but tells them to take the left path. On the other side, the protagonist follows the path indicated by the system until he reaches the boss room and is surprised. He wonders why he is outside the room. Shia says that if he is capable of pushing the bunker scepter, then he must have some ability. Cirrus says that Azathoth must be inside that room. Shia replies that he will take his head to his goddess. The protagonist asks about the goddess and whether he thinks Azathoth is female. Shia answers that she has a proud chest, fair skin, and a faint fragrance that never fades, asking whether she is not a woman and what else she could be, a man. The protagonist grips the axe blade and says that he can think whatever he wants. An axe is summoned and flies toward the enemy, but it is shattered by a single punch from Shia. Cirrus is shocked that he does not even need a weapon to deal with attacks. Shia moves rapidly, charging at him, asking how he dares say his goddess is a man, declaring that it is disrespectful to her and an insult to himself, and that he should prepare to lose his life. The protagonist thinks that he is extremely fast. Shia smashes the ground with his weapon, causing a massive impact. Cirrus's sword shatters and he thinks that Shia's strength is overwhelming, but that it is fine because now it is his turn to strike back. The system notifies rapid body slash. The protagonist moves instantly, appearing behind him and attacking. Shia turns quickly and blocks the strike, and Cirrus is surprised that his attack was defended. Shia smiles and tries to counterattack, saying that the goddess has also increased his power several times over. The protagonist blocks with the remaining fragment of the sword, while Shia keeps pressing with brute force, saying that killing him is as easy as crushing him. Cirrus thinks that he is incredibly strong, the most powerful boss he has ever faced. Shia lunges again, trying to strike him, but the protagonist blocks with his foot. Even so, Shia sends him flying and smiles. Cirrus, lying on the ground, thinks that he did not expect this guy to have a clone ability, which makes the situation much more complicated. On the other side, the monster attacks Cyrus and his team. The captain orders the two men not to run and to help him because he cannot move, shouting for help and asking who will assist him. Then, someone strikes the monster, shattering it. The monster collapses to the ground as Dapen has just defeated it with a single blow. She asks whether they were the ones calling for help just now and whether he was the one who requested support. Cyrus answers yes. The two men say they are saved, that they thought they were going to lose their lives there, and that she split the stone giant into two pieces. Dapen strikes the captain, sending him flying, and says that they are a bunch of useless trash from Area Z. Each one calls himself a brave hero, but all of them tremble in fear before monsters, and if it depended on them, the world would have long ago fallen under the Lord's rule. If they want to continue calling themselves brave heroes, they should go back and train diligently first, at least enough to look less like clowns. Now they should get lost and stop letting her see their incompetence again. The three walk out. Dapen observes to the side and says that according to the information, room 3055 should be at the southernmost point at point 37, and she takes the shortcut. She moves quickly, destroying everything in front of her, especially the walls. Meanwhile, the protagonist continues fighting the boss, but he is extremely exhausted, thinking that the monster's power seems greater than his own. Shia says that the goddess has already agreed with him, and that as long as he eliminates Cirrus, she will marry him, and that for the sake of his beautiful love, the protagonist must lose his life. Cirrus wonders whether there are no female monsters there, until the wall is broken and Dappin approaches, asking why there is another person from Area Z there. She says that it looks like he is already severely injured and has been defeated by the monster, stating that she herself will take care of that boss, that he does not need to throw his life away and should leave. The protagonist says that this boss is stronger than he expected and asks her to help him defeat it. Dappin asks about helping him. Cirrus says to lock onto the target. Dappin grabs his arm and asks whether he is crazy or did not understand what she just said, stating that she herself will handle that monster and that trash from Area Z should stay out of it. The system notifies that the target has been locked. The two kiss, attack power and favorability increase, and Dappin is surprised and embarrassed at the same time, to the point of hesitating to speak. Shia asks whether the two of them are ignoring him and flirting while fighting him. Dappin tries to attack, thinking that she has never kissed anyone before, but the protagonist manages to dodge. The monster asks whether he is looking down on him. Shia tries to strike him, but Cirrus dodges and counterattacks, making a cut on his neck. The monster says that his strength seems to have increased a little. Dappin is still frozen, thinking that he suddenly kissed her, wondering whether it was because they were too close, and thinking that she herself even used her tongue, which was soft and warm. The protagonist tells her to stop spacing out. The monster almost hits her, smiling, but Cirrus manages to make her dodge. Even so, part of her armor is broken. Dappin notices, and Cirrus says that she almost got cut just now. The monster comments that they have good reflexes. Shia attacks again, and the rest of Dappin's armor is shattered. She thinks she felt as if a shock ran through her body. She freezes and cannot move. The system notifies that favorability has reached 92% and attack power has increased. The monster thinks that that human's strength is really increasing and that he needs to finish him quickly. Dappin thinks this is bad. The tingling sensation spreads to the lower part of her body. Her legs lose strength. It is a strange feeling. She has never felt anything like this before. And if it continues, her whole body will become limp. She can no longer fight and decides not to think about it. She is there to defeat monsters and needs to move her whole body to fight. She has already helped block 2 attacks and does not want to become a burden in battle. The protagonist says that his strength is not enough right now and that they need to unite to win. Dappin says that she will not unite with him because not working with others is her principle, and she has always defeated monsters alone. There are 2 monsters, one for each of them. They will fight separately. That way she keeps her promise and they can defeat them faster, asking whether he accepts this. Cirrus approaches, places his hand on her waist, and says that with her there, he is sure they can win. Dappin thinks that his hand is warm and the tingling sensation returns. To the side, someone starts vomiting. It is Azathoth who thinks that that heartless body is close to its limit. Sadiel asks whether he is coughing up plasma, and the demon god asks whether Shia still has not dealt with that human. Dappin thinks that in the past, she would have simply punched the protagonist and told him to leave, but now she proposes this way of fighting. She does not know whether it is to defeat the monster faster or because the strong desire to get close to him keeps growing inside her. Inside, Azathoth says that she does not have much time to wait for Shia to deal with that human. That is her plasma spirit. She must seize it and let Shia consume it, and then she will be able to take control of his body and abilities. As soon as she obtains physical duplication, she will be able to deceive the system's mark, but with Shia's body, she will only be able to withstand her power for a few dozen seconds. During that short time, she will claim the heart and the strength with no choice but to take this risk now. Sadiel takes the spirit and asks whether that human will lose his life there. The demon god is enveloped by a dark aura and says that she seems quite concerned about that human. Sadiel replies that no, she only feels disgust toward humans. Meanwhile, outside, blows are exchanged. The protagonist thinks about his ribs and believes that some have just fractured, because not even the recent increase in strength was enough. Dappin pulls him and blocks the monster's strike, but for a moment the two of them are thrown far away. Cirrus is hit in the face, and Dappin thinks that that sensation is returning once again. The monster says that this is a good opportunity. Dappin realizes that her battle companion is bleeding, and that she accidentally crushed him. Apologizing and saying it was an accident, Shia gathers an absurd amount of power and releases it, destroying everything ahead and causing a massive explosion. The smoke dissipates, and Shia says that those 2 humans must have been blown to pieces, but Dappin managed to block that tremendous attack and thinks that her armor was shattered, having absorbed most of the impact. She asks if he is alright, and the protagonist replies that he is, that only a few ribs are broken. Dapin says that he is no match for Shia, and that if he keeps fighting, he will lose his life. This battle is hers alone. She thinks that after pressing against him, a strong desire arose within her to get even closer to him, wanting to hug him again to experience that sense of dominance. She says that her blue armor was shattered by the last attack and that he can come and hold her tightly because she does not want the monster to see her body. She needs to use one hand to cover her chest to avoid exposure, leaving only one hand to fight, which would greatly reduce her combat effectiveness, so it would be better if he hugged her and covered her chest. Dapin thinks that she does not know why she's having these thoughts. She is a rank S hero. Her body and mind have gone through countless trainings. She should not have difficulty controlling her body and her desires. The protagonist says that this really hurts, and that he will need to find Lilia for treatment after this. Dapin thinks that he is injured, that he is a wounded man. What she feels is not desire. It is the duty to protect the weak. Dapin approaches with her arms open and thinks that protecting the weak and injured is her responsibility as a brave hero, and that she must protect him. The system notifies that favorability has increased and that when they get close, all attributes will be doubled. Shia charges to attack both of them together, but Dapin manages to dodge while holding the protagonist in her arms. Dapin thinks that her body is starting to react again. The sensation is even more intense than before, as if a flame were burning inside her. She is a brave hero and must overcome these difficulties. He is completely enveloped. His body is soft yet firm and strong, and Sirius's attributes keep increasing. Dapin lands on the ground again and says that she is holding him to protect him while he is injured, so she should not think too much about it. Naturally, both he and she are hypocritical people, and all of this is a necessary sacrifice to defeat the monster. The monster watches them and uses his clone ability, saying that it has been increased fourfold, the limit of what his body can endure. Dapin says that the monster has split into 4, and the protagonist thinks that, just to be safe, he will stay like this for a little longer. Sadiel thinks about what Azathoth said, that she drank his plasma and resonated with her body. If he loses his life, she will not survive either. Sadiel stands still, lost in thought, with the mushroom in her hand. Azathoth states that once he recovers his heart, he will reward Sadiel with extraordinary power. If she proves worthy, she could become one of his consorts and experience supreme happiness. For that, she would need to find Shia. Sadiel steps away, holding the pill in her hand. The demon god reflects that, when he closes his eyes, he can observe the outside world through the plasma spirit and hopes she will not disappoint him. As she walks out, Azathoth questions what the problem is and whether she dislikes hugs. Sadiel replies that she's not used to having her body touched by anyone and prefers to avoid that kind of contact. The demon god laughs and claims she should not entertain such thoughts about herself, as only a powerful demon king would be worthy of sharing pleasure with him. According to Azathoth, Sadiel was far from that, serving only as a watchdog and should leave immediately. In the present, while recalling those words, Sadiel concludes that he was even more repulsive than that human. Outside, Dapin orders them to hold her tightly while he faces Shia. During the fight, something suddenly changes. The system begins notifying increases in defense, agility, and concentration attributes, while a deafening roar echoes across the battlefield. Dapin moves his leg and new notifications appear, indicating increases in magical power, endurance, and attack power. Shia advances with his weapon, releasing a violent sound wave. Dapin blocks the strike and tries to hold his ground while Shia laughs, showing satisfaction. Dapin realizes that his body is responding with difficulty and that his energy is quickly running out. Visibly irritated, Shia declares that he will eliminate all of them to win Azathoth's love. He states that sacrificing a physical clone was a small price to pay, even though he had requested only a quarter of the demon god's power. At that moment, an intense light bursts around them, and Shia realizes something is wrong as he notices his armor disappearing. He then states that humans should prepare to lose their lives. The system continues notifying attribute increases, and Shia shows surprise upon realizing that someone managed to break free from his restraints. The protagonist then declares that now it is his turn to act. Sirius clenches his fist and charges forward with force, striking Shia and throwing him far away. Sadiel approaches the fallen monster and questions whether he had really been thrown like that. Sitting on the ground, Dapin states that her strength seems completely drained. The protagonist reassures her, saying that this time he will take over the fight and protect her. Shia gets up and launches a devastating attack. Sirius advances with clenched fists and delivers powerful blows, causing extremely loud impacts. While watching the battle, Sadiel declares that the demon god disgusts her. Azathoth appears consumed by fury and calls her a traitor, accusing her of trying to destroy his plasma spirit. In an instant, Sadiel's wrist is cut. An intense light approaches and reveals Azathoth, who takes the pill from her hand and places it in the monster's mouth. Shia swallows the object and begins making grotesque and uncontrolled movements, leaving the protagonist confused about what was happening. Cirrus then realizes that the demon god was present and concludes that there were two of them. Dappin orders them to fall back. The protagonist, in disbelief, questions how more than one demon god could exist and realizes that the system had marked the true form. Cirrus activates the map and, perplexed, observes that all signals indicated real presences. Azathoth then declares that he needed to extract his heart within 1 minute. Dappin rushes at the demon god with her fist clenched, but Azathoth activates his cloning ability, blocks the blow, and says she is in his way. With a simple slap, he sends Dappin flying, causing a devastating impact. She remains down among the rubble. The system notifies that Azathoth's Spear of Oblivion has a chance to activate. The protagonist asks if there is only a probability of finding his true body, and the demon god replies that every clone there is his true self. Any system resource capable of threatening him has lost its effect unless they fight, until only one version of him remains. Azathoth asks whether he intends to fight himself, while the system reports that the protagonist is immune to the demon god's attacks. The clones approach and say he knows they never intended to attack him or cause pain. They only wanted him to feel pleasure. Now trapped in a soft body without any external strength, he cannot escape. Azathoth leans in and says that pleasure is not harm, so the system cannot stop him. He then declares he will extract every fragment of his heart, driving him into extreme ecstasy before death. Cirrus replies coldly that he has no interest in her and is only attracted to pretty girls. The demon god answers that interested or not, his body will reveal the truth and shows complete confidence in that. Azathoth opens his mouth, revealing sharp teeth, while the protagonist shouts to be released. At that instant, Sadiel appears and strikes the demon god, leaving him confused. Sadiel warns that Azathoth can maintain that multiform state for only a few seconds and that they cannot allow him to grab the protagonist again. Cirrus pulls away immediately, relieved to finally break free, and wonders if the enemy's time is running out. A hand moves within the debris. It is Azathoth who asks why Sadiel is helping and says that if he dies, she will not survive either. Sadiel answers that maybe she is just returning the mushroom's favor. Intrigued, the demon god demands to know what she is hiding. She says only that she does not want that human to die, surprising the protagonist. Azathoth moves his hand and declares that in that case, she must die. Cirrus activates his ability. A light appears, and Sadiel is transported to his house. Yug, confused, asks if someone just fell from the ceiling. Sadiel gets up, relieved to still be alive. Azathoth realizes he can no longer sense Sadiel and concludes she has been sent beyond his sensory range. He decides to ignore it for now because he needs to recover the heart. Cirrus lifts Shia's weapon and comments that it is absurdly heavy, barely able to hold it with both hands. The demon god mocks him, asking if he really believes a weapon will make any difference, and says he can crush him with brute force alone. System notifications appear indicating the rapid body slash skill. The protagonist moves in to attack. Azathoth says that under the system's influence, his attacks are useless, but adds that the protagonist also cannot harm his body with physical force alone. Cirrus replies that he never intended to face him directly. His goal is only to dodge the attacks. Azathoth laughs and says he is mistaken if he thinks he can escape like that. He explains that rapid body slash has a 10-second cooldown and that there is nowhere to run. He should obediently return to his embrace. At that moment, the system reports that the target has been locked. Azathoth realizes he cannot move and is surprised because 10 seconds have not yet passed. He asks how the skill was activated again. The protagonist explains that each created clone is considered the true Azathoth, so he tricked the system marker. For the system, each clone is a new individual, allowing them to be locked continuously and the skill to be reactivated, nullifying all attacks. If the demon god wants to capture him, he will have to undo the clones. Otherwise, they can drag that game on indefinitely, even though Azathoth's own time is running out. Azathoth reflects, irritated for not having foreseen this possibility. He realizes he cannot capture him now and considers fleeing to find a new body, even if it means being hunted by a human he considers weak. He reminds himself that he is the god of monsters and that the system is on his side. Soon he will have enough power to dominate his own essence, but he admits that if the battle continues, he will be defeated sooner or later. Suddenly, he unleashes a devastating attack while preparing his escape. The protagonist notices the enemy's intention. Azathoth moves at extreme speed and activates his cloning, splitting his body into countless smaller fragments that scatter rapidly. Then he breaks through the roof above and escapes outside. Cirrus watches in confusion as the demon god's body breaks apart into tiny particles. For a moment, he believes Azathoth has simply exploded. Each fragment, however, flies toward a nearby beast. The demon god reflects that his harem will grant all of them the power of the plasma spirit, allowing them to eliminate the human chasing him and later restore him. The protagonist stays alert and concludes that Azathoth has completely vanished. The system then issues a notification that a new mission has been activated. He must collect the demon god's fragments to reduce the poison's effects and increase his vitality. The host's remaining lifespan is 48 days and 6 hours. Suddenly, a head drops to the ground. Shia's body has been completely destroyed, leaving only that behind. Another notification appears stating that storage has been unlocked, allowing supplies to be stored. The current capacity is 5 times proportional to the stored level. The system analyzes Shia's head, says it has no relevant value, and asks whether he wants to store it. Cirrus accepts without hesitation. Nearby, Dappin coughs among the rubble, and the protagonist runs to help her. Frustrated, she admits defeat, saying she was knocked out by a simple gesture from that monster, and wonders how her strength could be so insignificant. Cirrus supports her and suggests they leave for now. On the other side, several men are waiting. One warrior asks if they are returning to the guild. His companion answers gloomily that everything is over, that they are doomed this time, and wonders how he will explain it to his brother. Soon they notice 2 figures approaching. They recognize Dappin and are surprised that Cirrus is still alive. One of them thinks he will need to beg Dappin to share some of the magic credit just to keep his title and asks whether she defeated the monster and if there is still any hope. Dappin suddenly stops and with a cold look says no one is to talk about what happened inside. Without waiting for a reply, she leaves quickly. Cirrus watches, amused, and comments that the woman truly has a sharp tongue. While flying away, Dappin recalls the moment she kissed him. Her face turns bright red and her thoughts become a storm. She asks herself what she was thinking and why those memories keep surfacing, then tries to convince herself to stop thinking about him once and for all. Back in Area Z at the guild headquarters, Dappin announces that she lost. Cyrus is stunned. He asks if she truly failed and feels a bit relieved inside. If even an S-class adventurer could not defeat Shia, then the information about the boss's condition must have been wrong, and all he needs is someone to blame. He claims Cirrus must have interfered and caused the expedition to fail. The protagonist immediately realizes he is trying to shift all responsibility again. Cyrus insists, asking if that is not exactly what happened. Before he can continue, Dappin strikes him violently. The warriors watch with concern and comment that the captain got beaten again. Dappin says that after a few movements, she feels her strength almost fully restored and that she will return alone. Cirrus asks if she is sure she is all right. She confirms she can go back by herself and does not need help. Later, in the conference room, someone says that 2 consecutive missions have failed with devastating losses and asks whether Cyrus understands the consequences. He tries to justify himself, claiming everything happened because of Cirrus. Judge Blaze interrupts him immediately, orders him to be silent, and says he has not been given permission to speak yet. He warns that if he interrupts again, he will be sent straight to prison, and if he lies before him, he will be sent to hell. He then demands that he explain why the mission failed. Cyrus, trembling, repeats that they failed to eliminate the boss and insists the blame lies with Cirrus. In the guild's main hall, the protagonist orders the vault to be opened. Cirrus takes Shia's head out of storage and displays it before everyone, who react in absolute shock. Inside the trial room, Cyrus continues his speech, claiming that Cirrus tried to steal all the credit, led the group down the wrong path, caused deaths, and that he himself had to sacrifice his leg to save the rest of the team. He adds that Cirrus always trembles before monsters, collapses to the ground, and has no courage at all. He says it was the same in the previous mission, in the Naya dungeon, when Cirrus ignored orders, showed weak abilities, and remained stuck at rank F, unworthy of being called a hero. The judge then declares that Cirrus will be stripped of his rank F captain position and detained for personal interrogation. He adds that monsters are vengeful and that Shia could attack the city at any moment, ordering a level 2 alert to protect the citizens. Cyrus, worked up, declares that if that useless fool had not slowed him down, he would have already torn off Shia's head. At that instant, the doors burst open. The protagonist enters, releasing an overwhelming aura, shattering part of the surroundings. He then throws Shia's head before everyone, silencing the entire hall. Cyrus watches in shock and total confusion. Cirrus tosses the head toward him. Everyone around widens their eyes, stunned, asking whether that really is the boss's head and who dared throw it there. They quickly realize it was Cirrus. Without saying a word, the protagonist simply turns and starts to walk away. A voice calls Cyrus. It is the judge, ordering him to repeat exactly what he said moments earlier. Desperate, Cyrus begins to cry and begs for a chance to explain. While walking down the corridor, Cirrus notices someone standing in front of him. It is Lilia. She informs him that the high priest of the Holy See is summoning him. He asks if the summons is immediate, and Lilia confirms, adding that the high priest has found a method to treat the poison. Elsewhere, the religious leader waits for his arrival. At the veteran's mansion, Dappin repeatedly strikes a punching bag. During training, the memory of the kiss invades her thoughts and makes her stop abruptly. Irritated, she wonders why she cannot forget that moment. She decides to intensify her training, believing that pushing her body to the limit will force her mind to focus only on the physical strain. At that moment, Dai Li enters the room, saying she heard about the mission's failure. She provokes Dappin, mentioning that she left the dungeon accompanied by a mere rank F hero, something strange for someone who always avoided cooperation. Dappin reacts angrily, demanding to know who allowed her in and ordering her to leave immediately. Lee answers with a provocative smile, saying anger harms the skin, and that she is curious how Cirrus managed to break her rules. Dappin replies that it is none of her business and asks what her real intention is. Lee says that as a loving sister, she only came to check on her after hearing about the failure, then starts mocking, saying that in this world, people develop their brains when young, but with time, only their limbs keep growing. Dappin shoots back that she does not know whether Lee's brain evolved, but her figure certainly did not. Annoyed, Lee orders her partner to step in. Rokuro calmly replies that, as a butler, he has no permission to harm the elder sister. Dappin lifts a weight and faces him, saying that if he wants to fight her, he can try. Lee only looks at her with contempt and decides to leave, saying she would not lower herself to something so vulgar. Before they go, Dappin throws the weight at them. Rokuro catches it with a giant hand and crushes it easily. Lee asks why there is a strange draft there, and Rokuro answers that it was just a small pest flying by. She shows disgust and orders him to wash his hands immediately. As she watches the pair walk away, Dappin receives Lee's silent gaze, and Lee inwardly decides to take everything she values, starting with Cirrus. At the Holy See, Lilia says the high priest is waiting inside the chamber and that only Cirrus may enter. He walks to the door. Just as he is about to go in, Lilia calls for him to wait and not step through. Cirrus turns and asks if she really called him. She quickly denies it and says he must have misunderstood. Ignoring the hesitation, he opens the door and finds someone waiting. Inside, he sees a woman sitting calmly at the center of the room. She introduces herself as Seraphina, the high priestess of the Holy See. Calmly, she places her leg on a nearby chair and invites him to sit there, saying she wants to talk face to face. Cirrus looks at her with suspicion, feeling uncomfortable with the gesture. Seraphina explains that she knows the poison in his body comes from Azathoth's plasma. She says the plasma strengthens monsters when consumed but dissolves a human body almost instantly. Even so, she notes that his body managed to partially fuse with the poison, though it is being slowly eroded. Cirrus asks how far she has managed to analyze the poison. Before he finishes, Seraphina presses her foot against his face and orders him not to interrupt while she speaks. She then removes it and continues, saying that if other beasts consume that plasma, the consequences could bring an unimaginable catastrophe to humanity. To prevent this, she states coldly that she has decided to consume it herself. Frightened, Cirrus steps back at once and asks if she truly intends to devour him, reminding her they are both human. Looking at her appearance, he starts to doubt that and asks whether she is actually a monster. Seraphina calmly replies that she might be considered one, but she remains on humanity's side and, for the future of the world, needs to consume him. The system then reports that the target has been locked. Cirrus thinks he will never allow himself to be devoured. Another notification appears instructing him to choose a card. He selects one. New messages follow stating he has obtained the item Gloves of the Angel of Happiness. When touching a locked enemy, the gloves store energy and release a shockwave, and when striking a vital point, they trigger the Supreme Strike. Seraphina holds a fragment of Azathoth and says that in this world, only that power is capable of keeping him alive. Without hesitation, the High Priestess swallows the fragment and remarks with satisfaction that the power granted by the demon god is truly delicious. The protagonist watches, intrigued, and wonders whether the tips of her vines are forming mouths. Seraphina declares that after devouring him, she will gain enough strength to unite all human cities, penning them like livestock. Everyone will become followers of the Holy See, and anyone who defies the doctrine or harbors evil intent will be consumed by her and purified in the process. In this way, she will create a world free from corruption and wickedness. Cirrus replies that this does not look like protecting humanity and says he will never allow himself to be devoured. The High Priestess smiles coldly and asks whether he truly believes he can escape in front of her. The vines surge forward, wrapping around the area as the surrounding pressure rises. The system issues a notification indicating sensitivity is at 1%. Surprised, the protagonist questions whether those vines represent only 1% of her power and decides to test the ability. He rushes in and lands an attack but causes only a shallow scratch. He concludes that 1% charge is not enough. and realizes he needs to touch other parts of her body to trigger the full effect. The vines coil around him and immobilize him. Serafina watches the wound on his shoulder where plasma is leaking and says she needs to start there before the power runs out of control. Drawing closer, she tastes the plasma and murmurs that the flavor is identical to Azathoth's, intoxicating and full of energy, irresistible to any monster. Cirrus notices that the vines now show pulsing veins and understands he must break free quickly. He stretches out his hand, trying to reach her body. Serafina stares at him, asking what he thinks he is doing, and accuses him of harboring impure thoughts, even as he is about to be devoured. Determined, Cirrus says he needs to strike her most sensitive point to end the fight with the supreme strike. He tries to touch her, but Serafina grabs his hand and threatens to break it. Even so, he manages to make contact. The High Priestess reacts in surprise and the sensitivity jumps to 11%. The protagonist sees that the effect works and decides to push the ability further. Serafina throws him away and breathes heavily. Each charged strike consumes a large amount of energy, and he understands that only direct contact allows the gloves of the Angel of Happiness to release their true potential and deal real damage. Irritated, Serafina admits that this human is extremely troublesome. Her body still trembles slightly, crossed by a sharp, tingling sensation. She grows furious, realizing that in this sacred place, he dares show such disrespect. Cirrus studies the situation and concludes he needs to get close again, since a 14% charge was not enough to break the vines. He moves fast. Determined to make direct contact, Serafina watches in confusion as he approaches with his hand outstretched. When he finally touches her, she shows discomfort and the sensitivity begins to fluctuate. Cirrus comments that she's too tense and suspects he still has not found the true weak point. Furious, Serafina orders him to let go and calls him insolent, delivering a violent kick. Cirrus senses the danger and calculates that with 6% charge, he might have enough strength to launch himself out of her reach. Suddenly, an idea appears. He dives straight into the mouth of one of the vines. Surprised, Serafina watches and believes he has given up resisting, saying that no matter what he does, he will be consumed in the end. Inside the vine, Cirrus feels the slick inner walls and realizes there is no way to orient himself there. Even so, he starts feeling around inside. Outside, Serafina cries out, seized by an unexpected reaction, demanding to know what he is doing inside her vines. The sensitivity rises rapidly, and a strange sensation runs through her body. Suddenly, the vine spits him back out and throws him onto the ground. Cirrus takes a deep breath, relieved to be free, and complains about the unbearable smell inside the creature. Checking the system notifications, he sees that the sensitivity has reached 25%, exactly 1/4 of the total. He analyzes that Serafina has 4 main vines and deduces that by reaching each one, he can raise the sensitivity to 100%. If he is right, touching another vine should push the value to 50%. Serafina, however, shows growing unease. She says suppressed desires are beginning to awaken again, and realizes that at this rate her mask of purification will stop working. She decides she cannot allow him to touch the inside of the vines again and concludes she must eliminate him immediately by consuming him at once. One of the vines opens into a gigantic mouth and lunges violently toward him. The protagonist realizes it is the same vine that spat him out moments earlier, and its speed has increased drastically compared to before. Cirrus rolls across the ground as the vines surge forward behind him. He wonders if he's about to be attacked from the rear and decides this is the perfect moment to test whether the sensitivity will rise. He strikes directly into the vine's open mouth, and Serafina once again feels that same disturbing sensation. The protagonist's hand pushes inside, and the High Priestess orders him to stop touching her inner parts. The vine reacts violently, hurling him away and attacking with crushing force. Drops of plasma splatter across the floor. With his armor destroyed, Cirrus checks the notification and frowns. Sensitivity is still at 20% and has not increased. He concludes that her sensitive point is not there. Serafina declares that she will crush him and swallow him whole. A terrifying power is unleashed against him. She thinks that after he touched her, he began triggering attacks like waves of light, each one stronger than the last. Cirrus says the sensitive point must be elsewhere on her body, and decides he needs to get closer to find it. For the sake of humanity and freedom, he is willing to risk his life and explore every inch of her body. Serafina asks how someone can speak so righteously while acting so vilely. The protagonist advances and says he will start with the most likely place, the chest. A vine opens a gigantic mouth and releases its power, blasting him backward. Wrapped in smoke, Cirrus realizes the Angel of Happiness is still not fully charged and understands that in this situation, he must rely only on his physical ability. Suddenly his head spins, and he wonders whether the gas has a paralyzing effect. The vine approaches again with its mouth wide open. Cirrus feels as if it is draining his plasma. He reaches out, but the vine instantly pulls back. He was just about to touch it. The vines retreat into the smoke, clearly unwilling to allow any contact. Serafina says his body will become paralyzed, he will lose consciousness, and then she will be free to do as she wishes. Cirrus feels the world spinning faster and his body growing heavy. The High Priestess explains that once his right hand makes contact, a wave of light will be released, and she will not allow that to happen again. Cirrus notices a vine to his right and lunges with his hand extended. Then he realizes it might be a feint to draw his attention, and that the real strike may come from the left, targeting his other arm. Even so, it creates a perfect opening to touch her. He is struck and thrown to the ground. Serafina comments in surprise that his body is incredibly tough, since she expected the bite to tear off his left arm. After inhaling so much poisonous gas, he should be nearly unable to move. The vine moves in to devour him. The High Priestess says that once she tears off his left arm, she will slowly lick the plasma and savor every drop. Cirrus suddenly gets an idea and thrusts his hand inside. He says the shockwave release comes from the gloves, not from his right hand. He starts moving his hand inside the opening, and Serafina screams at the unexpected reaction. The sensitivity, however, remains at 25%. Cirrus pulls his hand out just as an explosion erupts. He concludes that monster physiology is truly unique. Despite a human-like exterior, the inside is fundamentally different. Charging forward again, he thinks that the most sensitive, nerve-dense areas are often in unexpected places. Sensitivity suddenly jumps to 38%. Surprised, he realizes the chest is also a sensitive point. That puts him on edge because her hand is dangerously close, and at this distance, he is extremely vulnerable. Serafina raises her leg and orders him to get back. Cirrus is blasted away once more and notices that her chest sensitivity drops to 36%. He then releases his power, emitting an intense light. The High Priestess asks if that wave of light is coming again. The vines open their mouths at the glow, and Serafina feels the same sensation again. A deafening boom echoes, and the pressure in the room rises sharply. Outside, Lilia senses the disturbance and wonders if a fight is happening inside. The pink smoke begins to fade. The protagonist brings a hand to his head and exhales in relief. The mist has finally cleared and his mind feels much sharper now. The High Priestess states that his attack is not enough to defeat her, and that thanks to the plasma, her defenses have been greatly strengthened. Cirrus realizes that even with 36% sensitivity, the damage to her main body is still minimal. He concludes he must quickly find the true sensitive point, because if she consumes more plasma again, he will run out of options, leaving only areas he has not yet tested. He starts analyzing her behavior and wonders why, in the last exchange, she tried to strike him with her foot. At that distance, using her hands to attack his neck would have been far more efficient. He remembers her scream when his hand touched her hair and also the moment they first met, when she covered his mouth with her foot, not her hands. Gradually, he begins to suspect that her most sensitive point may be her hands. Irritated, Serafina says she will not allow him to touch her body again, and asks why he cannot simply stay still while she drinks his plasma. Lilia appears and questions that intention, reminding her that the plan was only to drain the plasma, not consume him. The High Priestess demands to know why she is there and orders her to step back. Lilia replies that the agreement was to seal him within the Holy See if no cure were found, allowing him to lose his life under supervision there. According to the teachings, a saint must not harm living beings. Serafina counters that sealing is not safe because he could escape, and consuming him is the most effective method. She adds that Lilia is being too rigid with useless rules, and reveals that by consuming that man, she will gain enough power to place all humanity under the Holy See's rule. With that achievement, she will take absolute control and become the supreme priestess, as long as Lilia remains silent. Lilia answers that she will report everything to the Holy See. Serafina sighs, calls her stubborn, and says she does not mind consuming them both. Cirrus tries to move forward but is intercepted. Serafina throws him into the wall and notices his movements are slower, as if his body has reached its limit. Lying on the ground, he feels intense pain and murmurs that the impact seems to have pierced his internal organs, and his body feels close to collapse. Suddenly, a foot steps into view. It is Lilia. She says she will help him contain the plasma leakage and casts a spell that stimulates the nerves, keeping him conscious and reducing the pain. Cirrus feels the effect and asks her to increase the spell. Lilia warns that it is only an emergency technique and does not regenerate the body. If overused, it will act like anesthesia, numbing him completely and leaving him vulnerable. Even so, Cirrus insists that she pour all her magic into it, saying he can endure it. Serafina watches with contempt and says using purification magic on him is a waste. She then binds Lilia with a vine and advances on Cirrus again. Lilia still manages to move, and Serafina remarks that she does not want to eliminate her, and that if she promises to stay quiet, she can still leave alive. Lilia answers that he is not an insignificant man but her patient, and according to the teachings, once they cooperate with someone, they must never allow that person to die. They must do everything within their power to save them and stay with them to the end. The high priestess smiles coldly and says she will make him die right before her eyes. Cirrus remains on the ground, but Seraphina starts to feel something strange. Confused, she says her head is becoming slightly dizzy. The vine restraining him retracts, and another wave of light spreads out. Seizing the opening, Cirrus rises and grabs both her hands. Sensitivity shoots to 100%, tearing a sharp scream from the high priestess. The system issues a notification that the enemy's sensitive point has been identified as the hands and Supreme Strike has been unlocked. Seraphina panics and thinks he cannot be allowed to get any closer. She says no one has the right to touch her hands because they belong only to Lord Azathoth. Cirrus ignores the warning and squeezes her hands again. Her scream echoes even louder. He sees her hands beginning to swell, veins bulging under the skin. Seraphina recognizes the reaction and recalls Yahello, a carnivorous plant whose nerve sensitivity concentrates at the extremities. With the reaction, the vines binding Lilia fall away. Seraphina feels a surge shoot from her hands to her brain and struggles to break free, but Cirrus does not let go. He keeps stimulating her hands while the vines begin releasing a dark liquid. Watching this, Lilia realizes something astonishing. The high priestess's body is full of impurities, and by forcing that reaction, Cirrus is driving them out. He's not merely attacking, he is purifying the high priestess in reverse. Seraphina, with her mouth open, thinks she will never yield and will not allow him to become food for another monster. Their hands separate and the protagonist begins to tremble, realizing he can no longer lift them and has no strength left, a consequence of Lilia's magic. The high priestess, her mouth opened in a frightening way, says he must let her devour him, because only then will humanity's future be secured under her rule. Cirrus bites his own hand and declares that he refuses. Seraphina stares at him, and an extremely intense light explodes across the area, followed by a terrifying crash that shakes everything. The pressure knocks Lilia to the ground while the ceiling shatters. Cirrus notices one of his teeth has broken and says, "The pain is terrible, the glove's recoil was too strong." The system reports that the target has been eliminated and Azathoth fragment has been acquired. Lifespan increased by 34 days for a total of 80 days and 5 hours, and a reward has been unlocked. The farm feature is now available, allowing the host to use the abilities of monsters living in the area. Yahello, carnivorous plant, ability acquired, release a wide-range smoke that causes dizziness in enemies. Cirrus asks if the saint is alright, and Lilia asks if he truly eliminated the high priestess. He answers that she returned to her original form, a carnivorous plant. Lilia says she understands and tries to touch the plant, but it reacts by trying to bite her. Cirrus says that is a relief, though he still feels something is wrong, and then collapses. Lilia begins casting magic and notices that his body temperature has dropped sharply. She explains he spent too much energy during the fight and needs to restore it quickly or his life will be at risk. Sitting beside him, she moves her foot and says she will begin healing the internal damage, sliding it over his body. Cirrus suddenly finds himself in another place and asks what happened, wondering why everything around him has turned into mud. Lilia explains that the mud represents his internal injuries and shows that his body is extremely fragile. He feels the mud is heavy, pressing against him and making movement difficult, while a cold sensation gradually grows. Lilia thinks the mud will slowly absorb the magic in his body until it hardens into ice, fully relaxing his muscles. As she rubs the mud with her foot, his body will cool quickly and he will lose consciousness. Her foot rests on him and Cirrus moves his hand, commenting on the comforting warmth, as if he were wrapped in something soft and welcoming. The system reports that the target has been locked. Lilia feels that strange sensation returning and tries to steady her breathing and calm her heart. As a saint, she uses purification to heal illness and strengthen the body, but she knows that the more malicious thoughts arise during the process, the weaker the magic becomes until it disappears completely. Before that happens, she must finish healing Cirrus. He notices his body warming again, while Lilia recalls that when she stepped on him, she expected rigidity, but found only softness. A sensation so comfortable it almost made her lose control and let dark thoughts spread through her mind. Cirrus feels relief when he manages to stand again. Lilia watches and says he can open his eyes because the internal injuries have been healed, and now they only need to restore his energy and return his body to normal. She tells him to open his mouth. Cirrus sees a chocolate cake and becomes confused. Lilia orders him to eat everything that appears, saying the next step is crucial and she will not allow the magic to fail. She treats it as a test of faith and promises to heal him completely. The system reports that favorability has risen to 51%. Lilia pulls her still wet foot from his mouth, and Cirrus says the cake tastes delicious. She grows embarrassed and hopes he does not use his tongue, while the desire index rises to 60%. Cirrus keeps moving, and Lilia notices his muscles absorbing energy quickly and triggering cramps. If this continues, he will wake up weak and in intense pain, so she tries to make him relax, but the desire index keeps rising. Lilia moves her foot again, believing this is the best way to help him, while the sensation spreads through his whole body. Cirrus protests that it feels like she is wrapping around his intimate area. Lilia orders him not to resist, insisting this is part of the necessary treatment, and convincing herself of the same, then starts using her other foot as well. The system reports that the desire index has risen to 80%. Lilia continues the procedure and realizes the purification magic is beginning to fail. She reminds herself that she is a priestess and must stay calm because she cannot allow malicious thoughts to take control of her mind. The protagonist says he was grabbed and feels some pain. Lilia tells him to eat quickly and thinks she cannot endure much more. The system shows the desire index has already reached 84%. Cirrus keeps chewing her foot. Lilia thinks he really used his tongue and that it tickles, so she moves her feet. The protagonist keeps running his tongue along her foot, and Lilia realizes she cannot concentrate and needs to shift her attention. The priestess doctrine teaches washing away desires, showing innocence toward others, and treating things with sincerity. Lust is evil. Moderation must be practiced to promote purity, suppress impurity, remain faithful to principles, and not be ruled by desire. The desire index drops to 79%. Cirrus says he is finished. Lilia feels relieved that the treatment is over and thinks her purification magic is still intact, since she was the one who created it. The protagonist feels relieved and asks if the treatment is over. Lilia says yes, that his awakening means it is finished and thinks her purification magic has improved. A light is released, and Lilia feels an enormous surge of energy, far stronger than anything she has received before, wondering what is happening, at least double. She healed the injuries and received double the magical increase. Cirrus says not only are all his wounds healed, he also feels refreshed. The magic is incredible, and he thinks that if the rate of improvement continues, he might help her become the new archbishop ahead of time. Lilia asks him to remember to come back any time to heal his body, even for a scratch. And the protagonist says, of course. The church is left with a huge hole, and the vice president asks why there is such a large hole in the church, what happened, and whether it was attacked by demonic beasts. The protagonist leaves the church with the saint, Cirrus carrying the plant in his hand. Charlton asks if the archbishop is gone, and Lilia says yes. They must wait for the grand church to appoint a new archbishop before continuing cooperation. But he can come in and discuss the details with her first. Once the new archbishop takes office, many steps can be skipped. The vice president says that seems to be the only way. The protagonist says he will not trouble them and will head out, but Charlton asks him to wait and tells the secretary to take him home and explain what has happened at the Warriors Guild in recent days. Cirrus grows curious. As Daisy takes him away, she says a strange demonic beast infiltrated the city and targets only warriors. Several A-class fighters have been drained and lost their lives. The protagonist asks about plasma being sucked. The secretary confirms and says their genitals were cut. Cirrus asks if they were castrated, and Daisy says words meaning "not you" were carved into the bodies in some beast language. It seems the demonic beast is searching for someone, and Cirrus wonders if drinking plasma means it is looking for him. The secretary says that to avoid panic, Daphne from Zone D took charge of the investigation and is hunting the demonic beast. The car stops. Someone on the ground moves quickly. It is Sadiel who jumps through the window. Yug asks why she came back, and Sadiel says there are too many warriors and soldiers and she cannot escape. Yug, irritated, points and asks if she wants to live there too. Sadiel says no, that this is the enemy headquarters. If they are caught, they will be eliminated, and that will also bring trouble to that human. Yug says she knows transformation magic and will not be caught. Sadiel replies that she can only change other people's appearance with that magic, leaving like this is too risky, and they need to find a safe hiding place. Sadiel coughs up plasma and collapses. Yug does not understand, calls to her, and asks if she is pretending to be sick to stay there, saying she will not share the master with her. Sadiel thinks that even though Cirrus teleported her away in time and saved her life, her body was still injured and some internal veins burst. Meanwhile, outside, the protagonist approaches and tells his partner to come in and sit, and to explain more about the vampire beast, and shouts that Yug is back. The secretary comments that his sister's name is unique, and Yug realizes someone returned with the master. So she needs to hide Sadiel and make her leave the house after she wakes. Cirrus opens the door. Yug is waiting and welcomes him back. Yug sits down. The protagonist tells the visitor to come in, and the secretary apologizes for the intrusion. Yug grumbles inwardly that it is another woman again and decides to use this chance to get to know Cirrus. Last time she could not control her emotions and did not enter the house. But this time she cannot fail and needs to find a way to make this woman leave the master on her own. The protagonist asks how the vampiric beast managed to infiltrate the city, and the secretary replies that this is exactly the issue. The giant southern dragon is about to awaken, and when it does, it will devour everything in its path. Daisy explains that the guild sent a group of warriors to evacuate villagers from nearby regions, and because of that, few fighters remained in the city, allowing the vampiric beast to slip in unnoticed. She then mentions that the last time she came to deliver the captain badge, she was in such a hurry that she forgot something important. Cirrus asks what it was, and the secretary hesitates before answering that, as the vice president's secretary of Zone Z, she is also responsible for understanding the living conditions of regional warriors, including habits, styles, and preferences, in order to offer better support to the zones, and therefore he needs to fill out a form. Daisy looks visibly embarrassed as she hands over the document, while the protagonist studies the paper curiously, and she thinks silently that the form was created especially for him. The title reads, Personnel Promotion Survey, followed by several fields to be completed. Cirrus finds it strange when he notices a requirement related to spouse selection, and asks whether he really needs to fill in every column. The secretary trembles slightly and says yes, explaining that it is mandatory for every new captain that the form will be archived in the guild, and that every section must be completed carefully because any omission could affect the team's performance evaluation. The protagonist asks if it is really that serious, and when she confirms, he says he will fill it all out properly. Meanwhile, Yug watches silently and thinks that with that information, she will be able to please him even more precisely, imagining that she will soon surpass the others and become the woman closest to him. Suddenly, Daisy asks whether someone is inside his room. Hidden there, Sadiel wonders how another human entered the place. Cirrus approaches the door and asks who is there. When he opens it, he finds Sadiel and shows surprise, saying he thought she had already left, noting she looks unwell and asking if she is hurt. Sadiel, tense, asks whether that woman noticed her presence and says that if she is discovered and attracts other warriors, it will become a problem, declaring she will eliminate her to ensure safety. Cirrus immediately refuses. Sadiel asks why he is panicking and why he cannot eliminate her. The protagonist insists it is unnecessary, and she asks again why not, leading Cirrus to suggest they simply let the secretary leave after he finishes filling out the form. Outside, the secretary asks who is in the room, and Yug answers naturally that it is another of his sisters. Daisy is surprised and thinks he has two sisters, wondering if she will end up only third place in his heart. Inside the room, Sadiel hits him and orders him to remove her from there immediately, saying that if she is seen, she will eliminate the secretary, and the protagonist says he understands. Outside, the secretary asks why there was shouting, and whether they should help, but Yug says it is not necessary, that the other girl might bite and Cirrus can handle it alone. Sadiel slams the door hard, pushing him out of the room. Cirrus touches his head and asks if she hurt herself hitting it so hard. He then returns to the table and starts filling out the form. After some time, he says he is done and asks if the secretary can take him to the guild. Daisy says yes, but mentions there is a very good restaurant nearby and asks if he would like to have dinner with her. Cirrus is speechless and the secretary asks if everything is all right. At that moment, Yug places a plate on the table and announces it is time to eat, according to his schedule. Confused, the protagonist asks when he set that up. Yug smiles, strokes his hair, and says she worked very hard to prepare the meal, that he should not waste it, and that she will not let him go until he finishes eating. Daisy watches the scene in shock. Embarrassed and uncomfortable, the protagonist tastes one of the cookies and asks what they are made of, saying they taste strange. Yug answers that they are made from snake liver and bat wings and are very tasty, ordering him to take another piece and finish everything on the plate, but Cirrus refuses at once. Yug tells him to open his mouth, saying she placed the cookie between her breasts. Daisy, surprised, asks if that is how he usually eats, and the protagonist answers awkwardly that not exactly. Yug says they do that every day and that the master likes it that way, adding that if the secretary does not want to watch, she should probably leave. The secretary decides to go, apologizing for the disturbance and wondering privately if they have really become that close. At that moment, someone knocks on the door asking for it to be opened. It is Lee. Yug, irritated, wonders if it is another female voice. Outside, Lee asks why he is not answering, and Rokuro says he is at her service. She orders him to open the door. Rokuro obeys and throws the door open with such force that the latch breaks, entering with Lee. Lee observes that there are people inside and comments that he has guests, asking if he does not intend to receive them. The protagonist looks at the broken door angrily and says it cost 100 silver coins and that he will defeat them. Dai replies that she can pay 1,000 gold coins, handing over a check that can be cashed anywhere and saying it covers the damage. Cirrus takes the check and asks what she wants. Lee answers without hesitation that she is offering 500,000 gold coins for him to work for her, leaving the protagonist wide-eyed and completely shocked. Yug, irritated, wonders why those women keep going after her master one after another and finds the situation extremely unpleasant. The secretary asks him not to accept the proposal and reminds everyone that they belong to Zone D. Lee calmly replies that they do and asks whether that is supposed to be a problem. Daisy answers that Cirrus is extremely important to Zone Z and they will never allow him to be taken to Zone D. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a warrior looks at a fallen comrade's body and says the plasma has not fully coagulated yet, meaning he likely died about 4 or 5 hours ago. Through the communicator, a voice reports that Lee and Dai have gone to visit Cirrus, and Dappen thinks that Little Witch really went after him. She says she has important business to handle and orders them to keep her informed, especially if they find the vampiric beast. If they do, they are not to engage it but wait for her arrival. Everyone confirms they understand. Dappen then flies over a building, thinking she will not allow her sister to steal something from her again, especially since his residence is in Zone Z. In another area, a monster appears with a devastating impact, destroying everything around it with overwhelming strength and power. It is a giant beagle dragon, reflecting on its hunger. The dragon opens its huge mouth, creating crushing pressure in the surroundings. Some people comment that fortunately everyone was evacuated before the beagle awakened, since this event happens every few decades, and they ask why it is not simply eliminated. Warriors explain that the dragon's scales form the strongest magical shield in the world, and only the dragon-slaying blade could pierce them, but no one has ever managed to wield that sword. When asked why people do not just live far away from it, someone says that question shows outdated knowledge, because after feeding, the giant beagle dragon always chooses a place to sleep, and although that lair holds tons of gold, as long as it does not threaten the city of Salem, where the Warriors Guild is located, there is no reason to take the risk of fighting it. The dragon then releases a deafening roar. Back at the argument, Daisy asks how they dare try to steal Zone Z's captain, and says this has gone too far. Dai replies that if Zone Z can offer a higher price, there is nothing to argue about and asks what his decision is. The protagonist thinks he does not even know them, and asks why they are offering so much money since nothing in that world comes without motive, and directly asks what they actually want him to do. Lee answers that the first requirement is for him to admit he broke her sister's non-cooperation principle and demands that he tell every detail of what happened in Shia's dungeon. Cirrus asks if there are any other conditions. Dai says yes, and explains they want to put him on a television program to spread the story across Salem, exposing the weak point that made her stubborn sister break her own principles and give in, which would leave her deeply embarrassed. The protagonist refuses immediately. Lee reacts indignantly and asks why, reminding him the offer is 500,000 gold coins, maybe his only chance in life to earn that much. He answers that if he revealed it, Dappen would be hurt because he promised her he would not tell anyone. If Lee has nothing else to say, she can leave. Dai gets annoyed and thinks promises are worthless in front of money, assuming he just wants a higher price. Rokuro calls out and Lee says she's willing to increase the offer, but someone approaches. Dai looks back and sees it is her sister. Dappen charges with a clenched fist to strike her, but the attack is blocked. The pressure rises, yet Rokuro intercepts the blow easily and comments there is no need to hit a lady with such force. Dappen replies that it is none of his business. The secretary watches in surprise and thinks Dappen also seems to care about Cirrus. Dai comments that her sister stopped working and rushed there, asking whether that shows a lack of trust or disbelief in her partner's word. Dappen thinks her sister has always been troublesome and constantly creates chaos. The protagonist says he did not reveal anything. Dappen thinks he is a strong man who fought beside her and resisted the temptation of money, but then notices something and wonders why her sister's chest looks larger. She smiles and says there are things money cannot buy, that overdoing enhancements only shows insecurity, that her sister should accept reality because she does not naturally have a large chest and even surgery would still look artificial. Dai fires back angrily, saying that is nonsense and she has always been well endowed. She says they are leaving and thinks her sister must have hidden some secret from him, promising that in the future she will make him kneel at her feet and repay the humiliation tenfold. Before leaving, Dappen tells him that if her sister comes looking for him again, he should simply throw her out. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content. Thank you.